All right. Let's see. Also, there's a talk thread. So there's a podcast talk thread on the website so that you guys can like post something and then talk about it privately amongst just members on the website. Just heads up. I'll show y'all real quick.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Are you next witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
This.
Plaintiff calls Edward White.
So if you go to group discussions, you can post something here and chat about it amongst just members, pictures, whatever.
After you, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. White.
Good afternoon, Counselor.
Will you state your full name for the record?
Yes, Edward White,
Where do you reside?
Los Angeles, California.
How are you employed?
Many years ago, I founded Edward White & Company, Certified Public Accountants, and I am the managing and senior partner of the firm.
What is a certified public accounting firm?
A certified public accounting firm is authorized by a particular state, in my case, California, to audit financial information and to certify the statements related thereto.
What's the nature of the work that's done at Edward White & Company?
It's diversified. It includes providing tax and related compliance services, that is to do the tax returns for the clients. That's both fiduciary, corporate, individual, as well as partnership work. We also are involved in providing financial statements for financial institutions and for governmental agencies. We, in addition to that, have a business management department and provide a wide variety of services in that capacity.
Are you the Edward White of Edward White & Company?
Yes, I am.
Who do you employ?
We employ a very talented group of professionals that have really amazing credentials. They have graduate degrees from NYU and USC in business administration, as well as taxation. Many of my colleagues have been with the firm for over 25 years, in one case for 35 years. I'm very proud to be associated with this group of people.
Who are your principal clients?
We represent approximately 100 high net worth individuals and the companies that they own and operate. In addition to that, we do work for governmental agencies such as the Department of Justice, the state of Alaska, the state of California, and the city of Long Beach.
What's your educational background?
I started my college career utilizing the GI Bill. I served 4 years in the Air Force and was fortunate enough to have that opportunity. My undergraduate degree was in business administration, and I have a master's degree in business administration from the University of Southern California. After completing my graduate degree at USC, I took several tax classes, corporate, fiduciary, estate and gift, and subject matters such as that.
Do you have any other experience with education?
Yes, I was a former professor of accounting and taxation at California State University, located in Los Angeles, California.
What kind of work do you personally do?
The work I do is primarily transaction-oriented. Acquisitions of companies, dispositions, that is buying or selling a company, arranging financing with large financial institutions, consulting with clients where they feel it's appropriate for me to be involved, assisting my colleagues. As I mentioned to you, we have approximately 100 high net worth individual clients, and there's always something that I can contribute to.
Do you hold any certifications?
Yes, I'm certified in financial forensics by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. I'm also a member of the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the California Society of Certified Public Accountants. And of course, I'm a certified public accountant.
What are financial forensics?
That's an attempt to ascertain not only the facts, but what transpired as it relates to financial activity. So you do a study based upon financial records. You then look at contracts. You look at other financial information in an attempt to, once again, not only ascertain what the results were, but what caused the results.
Have you ever previously testified in court?
Yes, I've been accepted as an expert witness in both the California court and the federal courts, and I testified in matters involving the Department of Justice and the FBI.
Okay. Do you serve on any boards, or have you served on any boards?
Objection, relevance, Your Honor. This witness is not being proffered as an expert in this case.
All right.
Wasn't
This
designated.
is just a fact witness and not an expert
You're a
witness.
fact witness, and it goes to credibility.
But I'll sustain the objection. I think we move on.
Do you know Mr. Depp?
Yes, I do.
How'd you come to know Mr. Depp?
I met him because he was introduced to me by a senior executive at the Bank of California, Richard Smith.
Do you work with Mr. Depp?
Yes, I do.
In what capacity?
We are his business management firm.
How long have you served in that capacity?
By approximately 6 years.
What does that role involve?
Processing, managing his financial affairs. As you know, Mr. Depp is an amazing talent, internationally acclaimed for his work, but he relegated his financial activities to me and my colleagues. So we provide a wide variety of services for him.
Do you do this kind of work for other people?
Yes, we do. Numerous other clients.
When did you first become involved with Mr. Depp?
Approximately 6 years ago, after the introduction from Mr. Smith.
What was the nature of the work that you were to perform for him?
Initially, it was to perform a forensic study, evaluate his financial affairs, and to formulate recommendations on how he could manage his affairs in a more advantageous manner.
After you conducted that analysis, what did you do?
I met with Mr. Depp, the purpose of which was to share with him the results of our findings and to make recommendations on how he could resolve the issues he was confronting.
When was that meeting?
That meeting was on April 21st, 2016.
Who called the meeting?
I did. I called the meeting because I felt it was appropriate to meet with Mr. Depp and to discuss his affairs and to provide him with opportunities and plans and strategies to resolve the issues he was confronting.
Where was the meeting held?
It was held at his offices in Los Angeles, California.
Do you know approximately what time it began?
It began at approximately 7:30, and my recollection is there were 7 people in attendance, including Mr. Depp and myself.
Was alcohol served at the meeting?
Not to my recollection. I don't recall any alcohol being consumed.
Did Mr. Depp stay for the entirety of the meeting?
Oh, yes. He was very interested in the contents. He asked very thoughtful questions. He was fully engaged, and fully sensitive to the matters that we were discussing.
Did there come a time when Mr. Depp didn't participate in the meeting?
No, he was very actively involved. He did excuse himself on 2 or 3 occasions. It was my understanding that he was going to contact Ms. Heard and attempt to respond to her concerns and also address the fact that this was an extremely important meeting and that it involved his financial viability and that he felt it imperative to stay and address the issues I was discussing with him.
When did the meeting conclude?
At approximately 9:30. So it went for approximately 2 hours.
At the conclusion of the meeting, what did you observe as to Mr. Depp?
That he was fully engaged once again. He thanked me profusely for not only addressing the problems, but he was excited about the fact that there was a strategy and plan to resolve the problems.
Did he appear impaired to you in any way?
No, to the contrary, I found him to
I'm
be,
sorry, sir, there was an objection. What was the objection, sorry? Leading?
Just asking for his observation as to impairment.
What do you want to ask? I'll sustain that objection, but you can ask another question.
Did you make any observations as to Mr. Depp's potential impairment?
it was readily apparent to me that he was actively involved in the conversation. He asked very thoughtful and prudent questions. He was genuinely interested. And once again, when he left, he thanked me profusely for not only addressing the issues, but formulating a strategy and plan to resolve them in a successful manner.
Did you play any role on Mr. Depp's behalf with respect to the dissolution of his marriage to Ms. Heard?
Yes, I was actively involved in the negotiations of the separation and the marriage dissolve.
What role did you play in those negotiations?
Well, in my capacity as his business manager, I understood his financial capacity and the tax implications associated with it. So I was actively involved in addressing those issues as they were forthcoming from counsel.
You mentioned tax implications. What are you talking about there?
Excuse me?
You think you just mentioned tax implications? What are you talking about there?
Well, what I was talking about is that when Ms. Heard began the negotiations, she was asking for approximately $4 million. That
Objection,
balance
Your Honor.
then was
Foundation,
increased.
Hearsay, lack foundation, hearsay.
These were requests made by Ms. Heard and her counsel in a conversation, in communications.
Here, you want to approach for a minute?
Okay, so
Good God. Y'all.
One thing I don't like is how big it trims. Wish I could just cut a piece off. Do whatever you want.
Oh, you know it's going to be hearsay time to the max. We have a witness on the stand. They might as well get their megaphone ready.
It is 96 exactly.
as a result
What?
of your involvement on behalf of Mr. Depp in the negotiation, what was your understanding of what Ms. Heard was looking for?
She initially was looking for a consideration of $4 million, but her demand continually increased. It went from $4 million to $5 million. Then it went from $5 million to $5.5 million. Then it went to $7 million. And then it was $7 million, and she demanded that Mr. Depp also pay $500,000 to her attorneys. Then, after that consideration, she also said that all the community liabilities that were accumulated during the course of the marriage, which approximated
Sorry, there's an
$13.5 million.
objection, sir. Whatever's objection, I'm sorry. If you can't hear, I'll let you know. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, no
This
problem,
just
sir.
goes into his allegations of what she said, which Your Honor just instructed, sustain the objection on that.
Oh, it's gonna be a long afternoon, guys.
No knowledge of that.
Your Honor, I understand that. I asked his understanding.
All right, I'll overrule the objection, guy.
May I continue?
She'll tell you yes.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
He learns very well.
He
So the next
learns
demand-
very well.
Was that all the community liabilities that were unresolved, approximately $13.5 million, that Mr. Depp had to pay those liabilities in its entirety. So at that point, she was demanding $14,250,000 of consideration. And then it got worse. The next demand was that all of this consideration be paid to her free of taxation.
He's about to troll her ass, y'all.
And counselor, for him to pay $14,250,000 to Miss
Oh
Her,
my god.
that would require him to earn approximately $30 million.
This is so far beyond the scope, so far beyond his foundation of what was discussed.
All right, I'll sustain that last answer. All right. Next
Jesus.
question.
Did you make a proposal as to how payments would be made to Ms. Heard?
Yes, I did, and they were initially contemplated to be paid directly to the charities. The Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, for the benefit of the children who required severe medical service, and to the ACLU. During the course of the negotiations, one of the demands, because the contract changed, was that the payments be made directly to Ms. Heard.
Did you have any personal involvement with either the ACLU or the Children's Hospital?
Yes, I did.
What was that?
Mr. Depp directed me to issue two $100,000 checks directly to the Children's Hospital Los Angeles. I knew that he was involved and supported their efforts and appreciated his service. In addition to that, he directed me to contribute $100,000 to ACLU. In accordance with his instructions, my colleagues drafted the checks, I executed them, and they were delivered to the two charities.
Did you continue making payments to either of those charities on Ms. Heard's behalf?
No, in fact, I was chastised for making the payments by Ms. Heard's counsel and told that the payments in the future had to go
Objection,
directly
Ron.
to
This
her.
is clear hearsay. He's not answering the question. I would ask for you to instruct him to answer the question and not expound upon his.
I'll sustain as to hearsay. Next question.
What role did you play with respect to the payments ultimately made to Ms. Heard?
We supplied the payments to Ms. Heard in accordance with the agreement, either on or before the date in which they were required to be paid. The first payments made to Ms. Heard was $2 million in 2017. Then in April of 2017, another payment of $1 million made payable directly to Ms. Heard was made. Then in August of 2017, another $1 million was paid directly to Ms. Heard. Then in November, $500,000 were paid directly to Ms. Heard. My colleagues drafted those checks, I executed them, they were delivered on a timely basis. Therefore, in 2017, she was paid $4.5 million directly paid to her. Then on February 1 of 2018, she was paid the final installment of $2.3 million for total payments that went directly to Ms. Heard of $6.8 million.
Do you know when this lawsuit was filed?
Yes, it was filed in March 1, 2019.
Were the payments that were made on Mr. Depp's behalf directly to Ms. Heard the only economic benefit she received?
Objection, leading.
I haven't heard them. Go.
We're playing
I'll
a drinking
do it just
game,
for
but
some
we will
reason.
not make it very long with this fuckery. For sure.
Were the payments made on to Ms. Heard the only economic benefits that she received from the settlement agreement?
No, as I shared with you earlier, Mr. Depp was required to pay $500,000 to Ms. Heard's counsel, which he did in a timely and respectful manner. He was also required to pay all the community liabilities, which accumulated during their 15-month marriage, was approximately $13,500,000. So he paid all the community liabilities. She paid none of them. That's why you have to aggregate the money that was paid directly to her, the money that was paid to her, to the charities on her behalf, the money that was paid to her attorneys, and the relief of all these liabilities that he had to satisfy. That's why I said to you, Counselor, that the total consideration paid to her was $14,250,000, and she demanded that that payment be made free of taxation, that Mr. Depp would have to satisfy all the tax liabilities.
How long were they married for?
They were married for 15 months.
Okay. Were the payments that went to Ms. Heard the only payments that you've made on Mr. Depp's behalf?
No, we satisfied all of his obligations, so it was very customary for us to pay everything that Mr. Depp was obligated to pay.
Oh, it's
Are you
brewing with
familiar
this guy.
an
The
entity
tea is
known as
brewing.
2020 Wine Merchants.
Yes, I am.
Why are you familiar with it?
It's a prominent purveyor of wine in Los
Objection,
Angeles,
Your Honor,
California.
Foundation, hearsay,
I don't see the hearsay, but I
foundation at this point.
Can we
Participate.
Sure, sure.
Can we approach? Can we have a sidebar? God. This guy is about to spill all the tea on her. This is going to be a McDonald's coffee situation type scalding. Whew. Yeah, he's serving us a mega pint of that financial tea.
I think where we left off was I asked you, how were you familiar with 2020 Wine Merchants? And if that's not what I asked you, that's what I'm asking you now.
2020 is a highly recognized purveyor of wine in Los Angeles, along with other companies.
What involvement, if any, did you
Right.
have with 2020?
I satisfied the liabilities that Mr. Depp incurred, which at the dissolve of the marriage was approximately $160,000.
Do you continue to pay Mr. Depp's wine bill?
Yes, I do. We pay all of his obligations, but his wine bill has shrunk to virtually zero. Because
This will be stuck in my head all day now.
he does not consume that much in the way of wine. He's made a few gifts around Christmas time, but his wine bill has gone to virtually zero.
Are you familiar with a Spanish wine known as Vega Sicilia?
Oh
Yes,
shit, y'all. He's about to
How
say
are
how
you
much you
familiar
spend
with
on alcohol.
I know that it is a very expensive wine, and that I know that Miss Heard enjoyed drinking the wine.
How much does it cost?
The cost of the wine is approximately $500 a bottle.
Were you ultimately charged with
Does she know you
paying
can get drunk
for
off a $5 bottle of
that
wine?
was served on at the birthday party on April 21, 2016?
Yes, I was. We rendered the
Objection,
payment for the
Foundation.
balance.
I'll overrule the objection. That's fine.
How many bottles of Vega Sicilia were served?
At Miss Heard's request, she ordered 5 bottles of the wine and 8 bottles of other wine, so a total of 13 bottles of wine.
Thank you, Mr. White. No other questions.
More than all of us
This
make in a month.
Cross
Hot
examination.
damn.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. White.
Good afternoon, Counselor.
Now here
Your
comes the
firm has
massacre.
been paid millions of dollars by Mr. Depp and his companies since you were first retained in 2016, correct?
Correct?
And in fact, you're being paid for the time that you're sitting on that witness stand today, aren't you?
No,
Well, you charged the time that you spent in connection with legal proceedings in this case, correct?
that's correct, but I charge for my time,
That's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
and it's the same
You
time.
answered
that
my
I
question, sir. In
charge-
fact, you charge $710 an hour for your time, don't you?
What the fuck does
Counselor,
that have to
let
do
me
with
complete my
anything?
answer. I'll be
No,
happy
I-
to respond.
Sir, please try to stick to the question. that
My
I'm
mouth
asking
is on
you.
the
You've had-
floor.
You've had your chance to go well beyond the question being asked, but if you could just please stick to the question I'm asking you. it'd be a
Okay,
lot
being
faster.
rude as fuck to the witness that people like is not good.
Your microphone is on there. It's not really badgering, it's not
Yeah, thank you.
objection.
Thank you, Your
That's all
Honor.
right. So just if you could answer the question that's asked.
Sweet old man, you're being a fucking
Thank you.
douche canoe.
Let me start over, sir. You charge Mr. Depp $710 an hour for the work that you do for him, don't you?
That is my standard rate for all clients, and yes, I do charge that rate to Mr. Depp.
Can
And
we
he
get
gave a
yeah, can we get
deposition
makeup
in this
accounting?
case. Do you remember that? On or around February 2nd, 2022?
Yes,
And that day, you charged Mr. Depp $710 an hour for the time that you spent giving testimony that day, didn't you?
What the fuck does that
yes, I
matter?
did.
Duh,
And-
his time's valuable.
You charge Mr. Depp $710 an hour for anything that you do in connection with his account, don't you?
Yes, I do.
You have about 6 people working on Mr. Depp's account, correct?
Yes,
And
He's got to make a living. How much
whether
do you
through
pay?
or
How
one
much
of
are
your
you getting paid per
colleagues,
hour for
your
this
main
stupid shit?
contact with Mr. Depp and his companies is his sister, Christy Dombrowski, correct?
no,
Who is your main contact?
Mr. Depp.
One of your colleagues maintains active communication with Christy Dombrowski, correct?
Could you ask the question again, Counselor?
One of your colleagues maintains active communication with Christy Dombrowski, correct?
No,
What the fuck does that matter? Oh, look, let's waste some more time trying to find shit that we don't have tabbed and ready. There's a drinking game for us. God, like seriously, look at the size of that stack of paper he's holding, trying to dig through and find his shit. There are no tabs. Like, get this man a fucking highlighter and some sticky notes. Yeah, why didn't she just take the Tour de Franzia like everyone
Mr.
else
Wright, I
on
handed
fall
you
on a
the
budget?
transcript from your deposition that you gave in this case on February 2nd, 2022. You remember that? We did it over Zoom.
yes, I do.
Okay. And you swore to tell the truth in that deposition as best you can, correct?
Yes,
Can you turn to page 116 of your deposition transcript?
certainly. Did you say 16, Counselor?
116, 116.
God bless. Here we go, wasting that time.
Okay, I have it.
And now you just answered no to my question about
Give him
your
that
colleagues
petty page
maintaining
flip.
communication with Christy Dombrowski, but at your deposition just 2 months ago, on line 11 of page 116, the question is, what about Christy Dombrowski? The answer that you gave is, I haven't spoken to Christy in some time. One of my colleagues probably maintains an active basis of communications between her and our firm.
We got a
Did I read that right?
WWF SmackDown in the
Yes,
making, y'all.
That was
you
my
need to
question,
find the
just if I
term.
read that right, sir. Now, part of the services that you provide, that your firm provides to Mr. Depp, is to pay the bills to his doctors, correct?
Yes,
And you make payments relating to maintenance or damages to his properties, correct?
yes,
He's the
You were
accountant.
contacted in early 2016, right? You testified to that to do work on behalf of Mr. Depp?
we were engaged in March of
Engaged.
2016, if that's your question.
Right. Around February 10th, is that when you were first contacted?
I do not recall the date.
And you said you were introduced by executives, a guy named Richard Smith at the Bank of California.
Yes,
Mr. Depp owed significant amount of money to the Bank of California at that time, correct?
Sir, do you have a mortgage? Do you owe the bank
No.
money?
He owed money to the Bank of California,
Because
correct?
the rest of us fucking
I
do.
do not recall that he had an active indebtedness with the Bank of California. He had other commercial loans, but not with the Bank of California.
This comment right here.
And after you were brought on, you developed an understanding that Mr. Depp's financial status was very challenging, correct?
It was challenging, but we had an ability to resolve the problems if they were properly addressed.
He had liquidity problems, right?
He had substantial assets in excess of his liabilities, but he had short-term obligations that needed to be satisfied.
Let me just ask that again. At the time that you were brought on, he had liquidity problems, correct?
Can you define liquidity?
Yeah, I was about to say, can you define
I'm
liquidity,
asking
sir?
you. At the time he was brought on, he had liquidity problems, correct?
I would define the term liquidity as where the short-term assets are less than the are less than short-term liabilities. And if that's how you define liquidity, I would agree.
In layman's terms that I can understand, because I don't speak all the kind of business school terms that you speak. He didn't have enough money at the time, correct? He was spending more than he was bringing in, correct?
Yes, and she already told him to
Yes.
stop badgering the witness.
And you gave him advice about how he could hopefully get out of that problem, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And just to be clear, Mr. White, because you've testified to some degree of knowledge about wine that you allege that Ms. Heard requested. So you seem to have some knowledge of Mr. Depp's spending. Ms. Heard didn't buy any of the dozens of properties that Mr. Depp owned, correct?
Correct. He owned the assets prior to their marriage.
She didn't pay $5 million to blast Hunter Thompson's ashes out of a cannon, did she?
Not to my knowledge.
She didn't buy a yacht that she couldn't afford and then have to sell it to J.K. Rowling, did she?
I know you didn't just throw the queen under the
Now let's
yacht
talk
like
about that
that.
meeting on April 21st, 2016. You said the meeting started at about 7:30 p.m.
Yes.
and lasted till maybe 9:30. Is that right?
Yes.
And you have no idea, no personal knowledge where Mr. Depp went after he left that meeting, do you?
That is correct. I did not go with him. I went home.
And at that meeting, Mr. Depp was given some catastrophic news about his business, correct?
He was given news that he needed to address a number of financial issues, but I had a strategy and plan to fully resolve them.
That news that he was given that night was catastrophic, wasn't it?
No.
May I approach, Your Honor?
No, yes, sir.
Yeah, let's waste more time.
Okay.
And according to Google, he's worth 78 million. So I'm thinking his financial issues can't be that fucking bad.
Mr. White, let's do this again with another under oath series of statements. You gave
Oh, thank you,
testimony
because
in
we
the
forgot
UK
we were on
trial,
a fucking
did you
witness
not?
stand. Thank you, Rottenhouse.
Yes.
And that testimony was under oath, correct?
Yes.
All right. And in front of you, I have your testimony from the UK trial, and you gave that testimony on behalf of Mr. Depp, correct?
I gave it honestly.
This
Okay.
is true.
You gave it on behalf of Mr. Depp, correct? You were one of his witnesses called.
That is correct.
Okay. Can you please turn to page 865?
Are we going to bring up the fact that he did have someone that
And
was fucking up his
Just the second page
financials
of the document, upper left.
before Homeboy
that,
was
the
hired?
questions are talking about this meeting on April 21st, 2016. And you were asked the question, now Mr. Depp was given some catastrophic news about his business. Answer, that is correct. Did I read that right?
You did, but remember,
That was just
I
my
get a
question.
chance
You
to
answered my
respond.
question, sir. You answered
I
my
did
question.
not define that.
Sir, Mr. You'll have a chance, the attorney will get back up and redirect you, okay? So we just answering his question, that's fine.
And the reason I'm asking, sir, is because you just gave the exact opposite testimony here. So that's why we pointed that out. Now, you at this meeting, you had a discussion about his financial affairs and the necessity to formulate a revised business strategy and plan, correct?
Yes.
And you talked about the following financial information. You talked about bank obligations and tax liabilities, right?
Yes.
Which means money you owe to either the government or banks, correct?
Yes.
You talked about assets that he needed to sell, correct?
Yes.
Properties and things like that he needed to sell to generate money.
Correct.
You talked about ways to reduce spending, correct?
Yes.
And you talked about how to get new engagements, correct?
Yes.
How to get new gigs, right?
Not how to get them, but
The
I
need-
encouraged him to get them. I'm not an
Understood.
agent.
I
do
appreciate
not
that.
procure his engagements.
And understood. You talked about the need to get new gigs to generate additional money to help address these financial woes that he was experiencing, correct?
Yes.
You also told him at that meeting that his taxes, he hadn't paid taxes in years, correct?
No, that's not correct. That he had not paid any taxes in years is not correct.
Yeah,
That-
you'd be in
that
fucking
He
trouble.
was significantly
dumbass.
delinquent in federal tax obligations dating back years, correct?
I don't know how you're defining years. There were delinquent liabilities. I addressed them and formulated a plan.
Also, Johnny obviously doesn't do his financials. Someone else does. Hence why there was someone that was fucking up his financials that got brought up. I don't know, what was it yesterday, a couple days ago? Also, this bitch is spending more on wine in a week than we make.
And you
6
talked
months.
about the significant delinquent tax liabilities that would run into the millions of dollars for taxes unpaid, correct?
That is correct.
Like, what's the relevance? Let's get to the point.
And so after receiving
Right
this
here.
catastrophic
Where'd that
news,
comment go?
as we discussed, you have no idea where Mr. Depp went when he walked out of the doors of his office, correct?
I do not know
Okay.
where he went.
Can you pull up plaintiff's exhibit 936?
He
please?
wasn't even done answering the question. Fucking asshole. I mean, he can say it's a yes or no question. Just answer yes or no and
Mr.
fix
White,
it on
I'm
redirect.
not gonna, this is a long document that we can scroll through, but what I'll represent to you and Michelle can sort of scroll down is that these appear to be Mr. Depp's tax returns for Mr. Depp and his companies from 2009 to 2019. Do you see that?
Yes.
And these are returns as part of your role as his CPA firm now, his business manager firm now. Your firm prepares these tax returns, correct?
Yes.
And you maintain these tax returns in the ordinary course of your business, correct?
That is correct.
Your Honor, I know there's going to be plenty of redaction to do, but I just would like to move these into evidence. I don't plan to publish them or anything at this point.
Why didn't you redact them?
You want a question?
Okay, so what is going on here is her attorney should say it's a yes or no question. Just answer my question, yes or no. Not ask a question and then cut him off. But what the judge was saying when she was telling the witness to just answer is that all he needs to do is answer his questions, yes or no. He doesn't need to elaborate. It's fine, because when they go back to redirect and Johnny Depp's attorneys question him, he'll get to answer the questions in totality.
But I'll wait for redactions and they will not be published. Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Right.
Mr. White, you understood that Mr. Depp showed up hours late for work on Pirates High, correct?
Raise your hand if
That
you
is not
showed up
correct.
late to work. Shit happens.
Are you familiar with Tracy Jacobs?
Yes.
That's Mr. Depp's former agent, correct?
Yes.
And at the time that she was serving as his agent, part of her job responsibilities, to the best of your understanding, was to communicate with you about Mr. Depp's financial affairs, correct?
To the extent she had knowledge,
Right.
yes, she would communicate.
And you and she did communicate about Mr. Depp, correct?
During the period of her engagement, yes, we did communicate.
Can you pull up Defendant's Exhibit 874, please, Michelle?
Like, I'm late and I work from home. Yeah, second that.
Mr. White, do you see here this text exchange between you and Tracy Jacobs?
Yes.
And your texts are in white and Miss Jacobs are in blue, correct?
Yes.
Michelle, could you please scroll to the document that is bait stamp Depp 19246. It's about the fifth or sixth one down, please.
He's like, I'm worth every bit of that $7.10 an hour. Which, why are we shaming someone for making a living? Seriously?
Mr. White, do you see here the third text down from Tracy Jacobs to you saying, thanks, I got a call from Disney last week saying he showed up 5
Objection,
hours
Your
late,
Honor,
but
hearsay.
It's not hearsay, it's party opponent. She's his agent. I'm happy to approach if you'd like to discuss.
Yeah, he's trying to hit that pin and drive the fuck out of here. You never want to be rude to a witness that's likable by the jury, because then that in turn gets internalized as a negative flaw on your part. And this guy could not look more rude to this sweet old man testifying. Like, get the fuck out of here. But again, I mean, yeah, they should tell him not to worry too much about it. Like, just answer yes. He should be saying it's a yes or no question. Just answer yes or no instead of cutting him off. But also, again, there will be a redirect where Johnny's team will ask him questions and he can answer in the totality how he wants to answer them. So he doesn't need to let himself get stressed out with their fuckery, because he will get to properly answer the question in his totality when we switch back to redirect. You ain't lying. $7.10 an hour. Like, this dude, one hell of an accountant. This comment right here. Mary, you are fucking hilarious. I mean, we called this. We knew when we had a witness that was actually on the stand that there was going to be tons of objections, ton of searching for shit that we should have had tabbed, and a ton of sidebars. At least we got more than 5 questions in. That's better than 2 days ago morning round. Also, are we going to talk about the $500 bottle of wine? $500 bottles. She could take the Tour de Franzia. She could get just as equally drunk on a $5 bottle of wine. Hell, go big or go home, right? Get a $20 bottle of wine. A $500 bottle of wine? Really? Can you even taste the difference after the first bottle? I'm honestly asking for a friend. Because I'm thinking that is absolutely a waste of money, ridiculous. Not saying that it's not quality wine or that you shouldn't treat yourself to nice things. I'm just saying 1 or 2 bottles a night, $500 a pop. And by the way, 1 bottle is 4 glasses of wine. That's what I'm saying. Things will be behind a locked case, sharing with no one. See, here's a professional letting us know that no, they cannot determine if it's a $5 or $500 bottle after the buzz has started. I mean, I just cannot with that. Yeah, I would have. I swear, right here, this comment. Let me click it. I would have been refilling that $500 bottle of wine with some $5, $10, $20 max wine. Like, would she even know? Big facts right here. You know what? What somebody wants to do with somebody's ashes is nobody's fucking business. If he wants to shoot his friend's ashes out of a fucking cannon to show respect, love, celebrate, whatever, like, you don't judge somebody for what they spend on a funeral. So let him live. Let him do whatever he wants to do with his friend's ashes. That's fucking bullshit. Totally irrelevant. That's seriously like judging someone for how much they pay for a funeral. Ooh, Tammy ain't lying right here. I bet she does not. I don't know though. She racked up what, $7 million on this divorce? I'm so cheap I squeak when I walk. So you're not gonna see me drinking a $500 bottle of wine. I don't care how much money I've got. Ooh, this too.
Mr. White, we just saw the text I started reading. Do you remember that text?
Yes,
Okay, we're gonna show you and move for admission of that page of the document with that text. So I just wanted, since you won't see anything else, I just wanted you to orient yourself that is the text that we were just reading. Okay.
fine.
Dora, that page or that text?
They're gonna redact it, just that one text.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I would move for admission of this document.
I
I guess
swear.
we could call it Defendant's 874A.
Okay, 874A with the redactions, all right, thanks.
Mr. White, you just testified a few minutes ago that you didn't have any understanding of Mr. Depp showing up late for work on Pirates 5, but in fact, you received this text from Tracy Jacobs that says, "Thanks. I got a call from Disney last week saying he showed up 5 hours late for ADR work in London for Pirates 5. I really need to speak to him before he starts work on his next project in LA." Did I read that right? Permission to publish this, Your Honor?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Do you want me to respond?
I just wanted to ask you if I read that right, that you received this text message saying in part, "I got a call from Disney last week saying he showed up 5 hours late for ADR work in London for Pirates 5. I really need to speak to him before he starts work on this next project in LA."
But what's the
Did I read that
context?
right?
Did he miss a flight?
I believe you read it
Like-
right.
Thank you.
But what's
Now,
the context?
at some point you became familiar. You can go ahead and take that down. Thank you.
Ooh,
At
this
some
is big
point, you
facts.
became familiar, as you testified, with what Amber planned to do with money that she got from Mr. Depp in the divorce, correct?
It was the understanding from the beginning the money would be contributed to charities.
To two charities, to the
Contracts are
Children's
wrapping that
Hospital,
now.
Children's Hospital of LA and the ACLU, correct?
That is correct.
That's what he was
And
saying
as
when you
we
cut him off,
discussed,
fucking
you wrote
dickweed.
checks
Like,
to
this
those
small
two
dick energy is too
organizations
much
that
for
were
me.
part of Mr. Depp's divorce payment, but they were just sent directly to those organizations, correct?
Yes.
Can you please pull up Defendant's exhibits?
Like, it's okay to not allow context, but say yes or no
1639.
question. Say yes or no. Like,
Actually,
they're rude.
let's do Defendant's exhibit. Yeah, we'll do 1639. Thanks.
I mean, I get not allowing him to elaborate because you're trying to manipulate and elicit a
Mr. White,
response.
this
But
is a
this is
letter from
rude.
you to the ACLU Foundation dated August 24th, 2016, correct?
Yes.
You're not
And,
lying about this. Girl, make an
as-
OnlyFans.
as-
Get that money.
Part of your
Leave
work
Johnny's
for your
alone.
100 or so high profile, high net worth clients, you've helped clients set up pledged contributions to charities before, correct?
Yes,
And sometimes those payments are made over a period of time, correct?
yes,
Charitable donations aren't always paid at once.
And the
correct?
jury will think so too.
that is correct.
And when you make payments on behalf of your clients to charities, is it customary for you to send a cover letter like this?
In some instances, yes. In some instances, no.
Okay.
But in all
And-
instances, that there is a signed agreement and an understanding of when the
Yeah,
payments will be made.
so that wasn't my question. My question was just, is it customary for you to send a letter like this? And I think you've answered that. And so when you send letters like this on behalf of your clients, do you prepare such letters in the ordinary course of your business?
In some instances, yes.
And in the instances in which you prepare those letters, do you then maintain those letters in the ordinary course of your business?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd move for admission of Defendant's Exhibit 1639.
Any objection? All right, 1639 in evidence, and you can publish it to the jury.
This small dick energy is not passing the vibe check.
And Michelle, if you could please just scroll through, Mr. White, I just want you to see there's the letter here. We'll come back to the letter. And then there's the check that you're making out to the ACLU. Then there's, I guess, the envelope or something, right?
Can't
Correct.
even
Okay.
scan the
Can
envelope
we go back
well.
to the letter, please? So in this cover letter, you tell the ACLU that you're enclosing a check for $100,000 and that the donation is being made in accordance with Ms. Heard's pledged gift of $3.5 million to the ACLU Foundation, correct?
Yes.
And you also write that the check represents, that the check represents the first of multiple scheduled installments, correct?
It was my understanding that
I'm
she
just
was
asking
going
if
to
that's what you
contribute $3,500,000.
I'm just asking if that's what you wrote, sir.
You've asked me a question. I'm trying to respond.
No, I was actually just asking if that's what you wrote.
Then say, I
Okay,
want a
that's the
yes
question.
or no
Yeah,
answer.
you write this check represents
Specify
the
what you're
first
looking
of
for,
multiple
dickweed.
scheduled installments to honor the full amount of Ms. Heard's $3.5 million pledged gift.
It was my understanding she was going to contribute the money. And that's
Okay,
consistent
so
with
I
my
just
response.
asked if that's what you wrote. Let's,
Specify
can we please
that you
pull
want
up,
a yes or no
exhibit
answer.
1596.
what.
Your Honor, before we go to the next exhibit, can I raise an issue?
Okay, sure.
All he has to do is say, sir, it's a yes or no answer. Sir, did she pay for this? I just want a yes or no. Did you do this? I just want a yes or no. It's a yes or no question, only answer yes or no. Instead, he asks him a question as if he's wanting an answer and then cuts him off when he's giving it and then continues to cut him off instead of specifying it's a yes or no answer. Can you just respond yes or no? I can't. Say it's a yes or
Mr.
no
White,
answer.
is this a letter similar to what we just looked at for the ACLU, a letter that you wrote that accompanied the check that you sent to the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles Foundation?
Yes.
And this letter and this letter is one that you would have prepared in the ordinary course of
God
business,
bless.
correct?
Yes.
And you would have maintained this letter in the ordinary course of business, correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move for the admission of Exhibit 1596.
All right, 1596 in evidence. You can publish it to the jury.
And Mr. White, this letter also says at the bottom that it represents the check that accompanies this letter, represents the first of multiple scheduled installments to honor the full amount of Ms. Heard's $3.5 million pledged gift, correct?
When I composed the letter, that was my understanding that she was going to give $3.5
Sir,
million.
you're really not answering my question. My question was simply, I understand that you want to.
Just tell him you want a yes or no
My question
answer.
was simply that this letter says that this check represents the first of multiple scheduled installments.
Tell him you want a
to
yes
honor
or no
the full amount
answer
of Ms.
only, you
Heard's
stupid
$3.5 million
fuck.
pledged gift, correct?
We can both read the letter. The answer is yes.
Thank you, sir. Now, you hosted a dinner with Mr. Depp
God
and
bless.
Adam Waldman in 2016, correct?
I do recall that.
And that was the first time that Mr. Depp had been introduced to Mr. Waldman, correct?
I do not know that. Big fact.
Now, you are not an expert on California divorce law, right?
Correct.
And you're not an expert on the division of marital property in California, correct?
I'm not an expert, but I've been actively involved in numerous cases involving the dissolution of marriage and the related proceeds to distribute to each respective party.
Now, you can't give any sort of legal opinion or testimony as to whether or not Ms. Heard would have been entitled to more in the divorce settlement with Mr. Depp than she received, correct?
I'm not an attorney at law.
Okay.
I don't have legal opinions.
So you've never met Amber Heard.
Well,
correct?
these guys are,
This is
but it
correct.
ain't
The first
proven
time
to
you've
show
ever seen
much.
the person
God
who's here in
bless.
this courtroom this afternoon, correct?
That's my recollection.
And you have no personal knowledge of whether Mr. Depp engaged in domestic abuse against my client, correct?
I've never witnessed him involved in any abuse, and obviously I have never met her. I could not respond to that inquiry.
So the answer to my question is that it's correct, that you have no personal knowledge of whether Mr. Depp engaged in domestic abuse against
He's
Amber Heard.
the
That is
accountant.
correct. I have no knowledge.
Nothing further.
He knows
Redirect.
the money.
Mr. Jensen?
Like, that was completely irrelevant. I'm losing brain
Can we
cells.
pull up
watching
Defendant
this shit.
1596? Sir, could you read the last line of your letter?
This check represents the first of multiple scheduled installments to honor the full amount of Ms. Heard's $3.5 million pledged gift.
What was the schedule for those payments?
They were scheduled. I don't know the schedule because I don't have a copy of any pledge that she made, if that's your question.
Okay, thank you very much. One more question. Has Mr. Depp paid all his taxes?
Yes, he has. He's fully current with all of his federal, foreign, and state tax obligations.
Thank you.
All right, no further questions, Mr.
No
Jensen?
further question.
All right, is this witness subject to recall? No? All right, Mr. White, you're free to go. Thank you, sir. Just be very careful stepping down there, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Have a good day. All right, your next witness is remote witness, correct? All right, let me just,
They didn't even bother to correct it. They just said, fuck it, let's
Wait a
keep going.
Your Honor, may we just ask what witness they plan to call?
I see a Mr. Connolly in the lobby, so I'm assuming that must be the one. Okay, good. Good, I'm glad we got that one. All right.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not even going to bother wasting time correcting it. Two and done. This right here, great. Yes. Would have loved to hear more about what Heard spent.
Mr. Connolly, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Hi. Yeah.
Can you turn your camera on, sir?
You just a minute. Okay. There we go. There we go.
All right, sir, if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on a penalty of law?
I do.
All right.
All right, and good afternoon, Mr. Connolly.
Good afternoon.
And would you please state your full name for the record?
Malcolm Connolly.
And Mr. Connolly, where are you testifying from at the moment?
From home, Essex, UK.
And where do you live?
I live in Essex, UK.
Mr. Connolly, what is your occupation?
At present, close protection operative. I've had a couple of professions. I'm a bricklayer at trade. I was in the corrections facility, Pentonville, HMS prison. But right now, yeah, I'm a protection officer.
Okay, and can you tell us a little bit, just generally, what that means?
It means looking after the personal well-being, physical well-being of any client with detail to.
And how long have you been in the personal security business?
25 years.
Over the course of those 25 years, have you had any other kinds of jobs?
Yeah, as I said, I was a corrections officer for a magistrate prison.
What?
Are you familiar with the plaintiff in this case, Johnny Depp?
I am, yes.
And how do you know Mr. Depp?
I know Mr. Depp maybe about 23 years ago, 24 years ago. I worked for a company called Music and Arts. The guy who owned that company was Jerry Judge.
Can you just say Jerry
Jerry
Jones?
Started working with Johnny way back in the early days, and I was detailed looking after Johnny's ex, Vanessa Paradis, and Jack and Lily Rose, Johnny's kids. And my job was just to make sure they were safe when Johnny was at work. So that job, after about a year and a half, 2 years, Johnny asked me to go over him directly and we'll find someone else to do the kids and that. And that's how I came across Johnny. That's how I personally met Johnny Depp.
Oh,
Can
Jerry
you
Judge.
ballpark for us about what year that was?
Oh, 2006.
Okay. And can you generally just tell us a little bit about what you do for Mr. Depp as his security guard?
I will escort Johnny to everyday public places, make sure he's okay, make sure he's not in any danger. First of all, do the recce. You go along first. There's usually a two-man team. It's a two-man detail. You go along, do your recce, make sure all the ins and outs are sorted, no compromises, any risks involved, do a risk assessment. We do the job. I look after him. Basically, I look after Johnny whenever we're in public domain. Whenever we're going to be in a public domain, I will look after Johnny.
Okay. And how about the defendant in this case, Amber Heard? Are you familiar with Miss Heard?
I am familiar with Miss Heard, yeah. I first met Miss Heard in probably 2000, and I don't recall the actual date, probably about 2010, maybe around there. She came into the UK to do a promotional job for a movie called Drive Angry. My boss, Jerry Judge, asked me to take the detail. Went and met Amber, started the job. Amber was with her ex, Tasha, and I looked after Amber for a week. Pleasant week, it was fine, great.
Does anything stand?
After that week, I never seen Amber again until we did the Rum Diaries, the premiere after show of the Rum Diaries.
Okay, so let's move to the Rum Diary then. When did you see Miss Heard? How did you see Miss Heard in connection with the Rum Diary?
Oh shit, y'all look, they're matching again.
We done the Untitled premiere. We went to the after show party. I'm busy working, doing my job, myself and Jerry Duke. Seen Amber across the floor. Amber seen me. Just basically come across the floor, said hello, how are you doing? You know, the usual chit chat. We chit chatted for a minute or two. Johnny asked me how I actually knew Amber. Explained. That's the last I spoke to Amber that night. I was too busy doing the job, you know.
Did you know at the time, and well, let's back up for a second. Where was that premiere?
Do you know what? I don't recall. I think it was in LA.
Okay.
I don't actually recall.
Okay. Did you know at the time of that premiere in probably LA, but possibly somewhere else? Did you know at the time that Mr. Depp and Miss Heard were seeing each other romantically?
No, I didn't. I actually didn't. I mean, I surmised that there was a spark there, you know. It wasn't until maybe a few days later, a few nights later, we got at a dinner party somewhere, a promotional thing, and Amber and Johnny were basically, you know, sparking up. They were getting together. Then I sort of assumed that, you know, there was a romance happening there, budding there, you know.
Okay. Over the course of Mr. Depp and Miss Heard's relationship with each other, about how often would you say you saw them together?
Well, in the beginning, actually not a lot, you know, not a lot. Maybe once a week, twice a week at a push. But then
Amber and Amica Umbridge over there are matching once again today.
So more often.
Guess they told her to copy her instead of Johnny.
And as time went on, did you have an opportunity to observe how Mr. Depp and Miss Heard interacted with each other?
At the beginning, you know, lovey-dovey, everything was great. The honeymoon period was on, and it was, yeah, it was good. I mean, it was great. It's great to see Johnny happy again. Amber was, you know, lovely, charming, as she usually is, you know, good as gold. And then things started to change. Amber started to change. Amber started getting a bit, I would say, a bit more feisty, demanding, you know. I could see that Amber wanted to wear the pants in this relationship. That was pretty obvious.
And what in particular made you think that you observed personally?
Just the way, you know, if something wasn't quite right, or Amber could get a bit frosty at the drop of a hat. So as time went on, you know, I could see them change. I could see Amber change. I could see Johnny getting quieter. We get into the car and nobody was speaking. And, you know, it just, things started changing. Amber started getting a bit more grumpy, some say.
How did she get along with you?
Absolutely fine. Amber was fine with me. Amber was never anything but professional, polite with me. You know, she was Amber was fine with me.
Did you ever see or hear any arguments between Mr. Depp and Miss Heard?
When you say see, I heard. I mean, I could hear at times in certain accommodations we were staying at. I could hear Amber, scream. You know, I could hear shouting and bawling, and I could hear it going on. Yeah, but I mean, I wasn't there every single night. When we're working in the UK, there's nights maybe I'd get home because Jerry would be there. But yeah, I did hear. Yeah, definitely for a fact. I could hear sometimes the shouting and bawling. You know, it's mostly I could hear Amber screaming. You know.
About how, I recognize this was years ago, but can you estimate for us how regularly that happened?
I can't say regularly. I can't say it was like every day. but you know, it get more regular, it get more often than not.
Did you ever witness any physical violence between the two of them?
No, never. I've never seen any physical violence. It's not a thing that it's not a thing people would do in front of security. It's not a thing that would happen in front of myself or Jerry Judge or Sean Bett or something. It just wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. No, I never seen any physical security. I never seen any hands on. No.
Okay, what do you mean you never saw any hands on?
Well, I never seen any slapping or grabbing or punching or hitting. I never seen any of that physically. Well, I'll tell you what, there was an instance, maybe two incidents that come to my mind. One incident was on a private plane. I can't recall if it was a domestic flight or an international flight. I'm sitting, Johnny and Amber, or Johnny, whoever he's flying with, will sit up at the foretable. There's a foretable up aft, and myself and my colleagues will sit down the forward end of the plane. So I usually look up the fuselage that way, with my back to the nose. Amber had her back to me, Johnny sitting across the table, and there's a bit of bickering going on. I can't hear because, you know, it's not about jetcraft. I can't actually hear, and it's more animated than verbal. And I see a lighter, a plastic lighter, bounce off his chest. Boom, bounce off his chest. So right away I think, well, this is going to escalate. It's either going to go one way or the other. I don't think it came to much. I remember Johnny just sort of, you know, smirking and looking away as if to say, you know, well, what is that? It kind of attitude, you know. And Johnny tips his hat, puts his head against the window, and whoa, I'm out, you know. Another time, I was at the loft apartment. I was in the security room in the loft apartments with a security guard called. Do you know what? I can't recall if it was Sean Bett or a guy called Donovan. Anyway, I got the text. I was down there to pick him up to go to the West Hollywood accommodation, and I got the text.
Objection
No.
to these things. Going to talk about what the text is. That's hearsay.
You can just tell us what you observed without recounting the contents of the text.
Okay. I'm instructed to go and get Johnny, and because we're leaving.
Objection. He just said what he was instructed to do.
All right, I'll state the objection.
What did you do after you received the text?
I go to the loft apartment. The door's ajar slightly, just a we call it crack in the door. Push the door open and I go in. Shouting, there's a bit of shouting going on. I can't hear. I'm in the wrong area of the apartment. But as I turn to the left into the more of the lounge area, there's a soda can. Like I don't know if it's a Coca-Cola or a Sprite or I don't know what it was. But it's launched from the mezzanine. And Johnny's had this huge TV, the biggest TV I've ever seen before, but this, and it's on this mechanical arm, which is an actual piece of artwork that Johnny had got commissioned. And anyway, this big mechanical arm holds this TV. So this kind of pop, you want to call it pop, smashes on that, but by force, let me add, because it made a bang, boom. And all I could hear is it spraying all over the place. Johnny has already got his jacket on and a bag over his shoulder. That's why he's called me in, because we're leaving. I just pick up the other bags, pick up two bags, put my hand through Johnny's arm and say, right, off we're leaving. We walk out the door and we go halfway to the West Hollywood. Johnny's already calmed down, you know, he's like, man, can you...
Objection to these things talking, what Mr. Bett is saying.
All right, I'll sustain that objection. Continue.
If you have, I think we can move on.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Next question.
Notice how he was directing him with the
Just
answers,
to
so he didn't just
clarify,
leave him hanging.
Mr. Connolly, when when the soda can was launched from the mezzanine, where was Mr. Depp in relation to where the soda can landed?
Probably 10 feet, probably 10 feet back from that. 10 feet back from that.
Okay, and just to make sure we're on the same page, when you refer to the loft apartments, what are you referring to?
The downtown LA Eastern Building.
Okay. What was your, did you form any understanding as to where, as to who had thrown the soda can?
Objection, speculation.
No.
Oh, hold on, sir.
Was speculation, foundation.
I'm just asking if you formed an understanding, and he can state the basis for that if he did.
You want to lay a foundation.
Did you, to your knowledge, was Miss Heard present in the apartment at the time?
Objection leading.
Yes.
I'll allow
I could
it.
hear her. I never seen her physically, but I could hear her voice. Yes.
And where did her, could you tell where her voice was coming from?
Upstairs, just upstairs.
Okay.
She wasn't on the lower apartment with us, so I can only imagine she was upstairs.
Other than the cigarette lighter and the soda can, anything else similar to that you observed?
No, can't say no.
Did you ever observe any physical injuries on Miss Heard?
Never, no.
How about on Mr. Depp?
Yeah, yes. It started off with maybe a scratch.
I wish the camera would just show us what she was doodling over there.
Swelling, but it got more. It got more. Yeah, I'm not talking that it was marked every week or every 2 weeks, but yeah, he sustained marks there. Definitely, he was getting marked.
And can you describe for us what you can remember?
Objection, Your Honor.
I didn't put this in.
Okay, all right, hold on, Mr. Conley, for a minute.
I love this Seinfeld reference right here. I live for these little references. No soup for you. No soup. No soup for you. That guy, that if you've seen that episode of Seinfeld, fucking hilarious. I also want to try the amazing soup. That line for that soup. And now it's time for second lunch because I'm sitting here hungry now.
So, Mr. Connolly, you can continue responding. I think the question was just, can you generally describe for us what you remember about the marks you saw on Mr. Depp?
Yes, as I was saying, any prison service should talk to
The soup Nazi.
pick up log in your mind, mental logging in your mind, marks, bruises, bully patterns, stuff. What I noticed right away was most of these marks and most of these things through my training is happening in the left-hand side of his face. And it would be scratches on his neck, maybe a fat lip in the corner, maybe a bruising on the eye socket. Dull impacts, except for obviously the scratches, maybe on his left ear. Sometimes it would be two marks, 2 lines, 2 charms, 1. Yeah, yeah. It was getting more regular. As I say, not every week, but it was definitely happening. Yeah.
Can we see Plaintiff's Exhibit 162, please?
We'll do that after this.
And Mr. Connolly, are you able to see the picture on, I assume you can see it on your screen.
Yeah, just
Pivot!
Yeah.
Pivot!
Do you,
yeah, I know that picture. I took that picture.
you took that?
Pictures on the yeah, I took the picture.
Can you just quickly tell us what this picture is?
This picture is Miss Heard and Johnny's honeymoon on the Orient Express on the East Line from Bangkok to Singapore. We travelled through Malaysia, stopping at Kuala Lumpur and a few other places on the way down. And that is in the
I have found my
the
motherfucking
dining
people.
coach, I think. Yeah, dining coach, that's what that is. The guy on the left there with the silver band around he's the waiter. He's the waiter, the detail to look after us. The guy in the bow tie, he's the guest relations manager.
Mr. Conley, just hold on 1 second. Before we continue describing the document, I move for the admission of plaintiff's trial exhibit 162 and that it be published to the jury.
Any objections?
I'd like to approach it.
Okay.
Y'all, Jesus. Oh, Nikki, you better reload on that Dr. Pepper. This is like my version of gasoline. This and coffee and cheese. Hot fries. Basically junk food.
All right, and Mr. Connolly, I apologize for cutting you off, but could you just continue to describe for us what we're looking at in this picture?
Yeah, as I said, the guy in the bow tie, he's guest relations manager.
Tell me why Johnny looks like he just got out of the closet from Matilda.
Fixes up anything we needed. The excursions and transports and stuff. Then it's misheard. The guy, that's the chef who looked after he's the cook for us. He's a great chef. Yeah, he looked after us. And that's Johnny. And I also noticed, if you look at that picture, like I said, on the left-hand side, under his eye, there's a swelling. And you see the swelling just on the left-hand side of his nose and under his left eye.
And what do you interpret that swelling to be?
What do I interpret it as? That's either he's walked into a door or a door's walked into him.
Okay. Can you tell us anything, and we can take this down, I think. Thank you. Mr. Connolly, can you tell us, well, first of all, what, do you recall what year Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard went on?
Did the background just go
the
Shrek
picture
on
we were
us?
just looking at?
That would, I don't know, is it 2013? 2013?
Okay, and were you, well, you testified that you took the picture, so you were there, I assume?
Absolutely, yes.
What can you tell us about that trip generally, and particularly focused on how Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard were interacting with each other?
Started off good. Johnny's cabin was maybe 15 meters down the corridor from mine. There was no cabins in between. That was like storerooms, like blankets and cutlery and stuff. So the cabin was quite not a big massive distance, but it wasn't big. The trip started fine, absolutely fine. I think it was 5 days maybe. 2 days, 3 days into the trip, I can see Johnny going down. I can see him coming down, He's just not enjoying this. He's not enjoying this. But, I can't, it's not my business to step in and that. I just do my job. But I can see he's not enjoying this. He's not happy. He's not happy.
Did you ever observe any arguments between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard in this time frame?
Just not arguments, but some frostiness. Ms. Heard sort of demanded that we have our own dining cap, if you like. So me doing my job, I inquire to the guest relations guy that you've seen in the photograph, and he quite rightly tells me that there's other
Objection
things.
hearsay.
All right. Objection to hearsay. All right.
I think we can move on.
Okay, I'll sustain objection. Next question.
All right, so Mr. Connolly, well, taking a step back from it and changing topics slightly, have you ever seen Mr. Depp use any drugs? I don't think
I'll allow it. Go ahead.
Yes, I've seen him smoke marijuana. I had my suspicions. That when he goes off to the bathroom, he probably does a bit of cocaine. I've never seen him do it. Mr. Depp would never do a line or anything of cocaine in front of me, or Jerry Judge, or Sean Bett, or anybody. Mr. Johnny Depp would never compromise my license, my position, and embarrass me like that. It wouldn't happen. So to answer to your question, I've seen him smoke weed, yes.
You noticed any particular, what changes, if any, have you noticed in his behavior when he's under the influence of marijuana?
To be honest, a bit more relaxed, no, sort of uptight. But he's not out of his head. He's perfectly functioning. I mean, you can talk about anything, any conversation you want to talk about. He's neither up nor down with that, you know. He really isn't. He's got a very high tolerance for any substance, Johnny. You know, I would say so. You know, I think Jack Sparrow's more drunk than Johnny Depp. To be honest.
So okay, so that's marijuana. What about alcohol? Same question.
He used to like a wine, and the last I would say the last couple of years that's dropped drastically as well. It's in my last year with Johnny, it's quite actually rare now. It's not rare, but he's not a big boozer now. He's not a boozer now, you know. He's not, and he was never out of his head in wine. He was never, you know. I think I've seen him drunk in the 20 odd years I've been with Johnny. I think I've seen him drunk twice. And but when I say drunk, I mean drunk. Other than that, there's not a lot of difference in Johnny's demeanour or behaviour. Whether he's drinking alcohol or smoking weed, you know.
Okay. And finally, same question for the time periods when you formed the suspicion that he was under the influence of cocaine.
Sorry, what was that? Sorry, could you ask me that again?
What changes in his behavior, if any, did you observe on those occasions when you suspected but didn't know for sure that he was under the influence of cocaine?
Well, again, during the training I had in the HMP prison service, it just seemed a bit more. I don't know.
I literally write down every time this asshole wastes our time.
Down, you know.
We're trying not to waste the
I
court's
he's
time.
not leaping around kicking his heels or anything.
They're on Amber Heard time and
He
Amber
picks
Heard
his guitar
time
up
only.
And then he gets right into his guitar, and there's no major changes really. You know, he's fine. You know.
Okay. Now you mentioned you traveled with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard on their honeymoon on the Orient Express. Where else have you traveled with them?
Well, all over the world, Japan, China, Germany. I've been all over the States. Went to an interesting place, Hicksville. That's an interesting story. Yeah, all over the world. Australia. Went to Australia. As far away as that.
And let's take that one at a time. Hicksville, you said?
Yeah, Hicksville. Yeah. It's a funky. I remember Hicksville because it's a real funky place, you know. With Amber and Johnny, they decided they were going to go to Hicksville for a day and a night, I think it was. So we all off the trot. Amber and her friends all head off, and Amber travelled with Johnny, but her friends all head off. I followed. Johnny wanted to drive his own. They got a beautiful big customised Plymouth. I think it's 58 or 50. I'm not an expert, but they had customised. He wanted to drive this car. Myself and his assistant at the time, Nathan Holmes, we use another of Johnny's cars and we follow behind. We get to Joshua Tree, Hicksville. Stunning as you can imagine. but it's done in a very funky theme. All the caravans are different themes. You know, like mine was an old railway kibbutz with the old fairground fortune teller head that comes around and stuff like that. And Johnny's and Amber's caravan were maybe about 15 meters from mine, maybe 20 meters, and that was done in like the 1950s style, you know, like kitschy 1950s kind of thing. And the rest of the caravans were all, you know, zombies coming out the ground, and it was craziness. Anyway, we go there. There's a lot of booze. All the booze comes up. Party starts. Well, sort of sitting around in the sun, messing around. Party starts. So there's loads of booze and weed, and I think there's mushrooms, some psychedelic mushrooms. That's going around. But the night gets a bit ruined as I'm watching exactly what's all happening. Everybody's happy, you know. Johnny, Amber, everybody's happy. As I'm watching what's happening, I can see Johnny and Amber getting a bit animated. And they were probably about maybe 25 feet from me. So I approach, and I've been working with Johnny that long. I don't have to really say anything. I only have to look at his face.
I've yawned 3 times
Johnny
behind
can
this
talk to me
mic.
to his face and then takes it
Not
away.
even gonna lie.
So I know what's happening. So, and I say in a low voice, guys, let's keep this private. Let's start walking towards the caravan. Let's, take this away from here. As I'm walking ahead, going ahead, I can hear sort of, bickering behind me. Johnny's trying to talk in, low tone, keep things a bit quiet. But Amber's getting a bit more loud, a bit more narky, So anyway, I get them to the caravan, I put them inside, and I go to my caravan. That's it. Don't hear anything, don't see anything until the next morning. We sit around the pool, a couple of hours, and we head back to LA.
What prompted you
Mr.
to?
Motors, before do you have a lot of direct still left in this matter?
Not terribly much more, maybe 10 to
We're gonna
15
take our
minutes.
afternoon break then. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and take a 15-minute afternoon break.
Oh, thank you,
And then we'll
Jesus.
come back and continue with the testimony.
Thank
okay?
you, Jesus.
Don't do any outside research and don't talk to anybody.
Let me get cozy on this desk.
All right, Mr. Connolly, I'm going to put you in the lobby for our break. Okay, I'm going to come back and put you back in about 4:20 our time. Okay, in about 17 minutes. Okay, sir. All right, just don't discuss your test. All right, just don't discuss your testimony with anybody until then. Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Oh, snooze fest. Okay, let's get into it.
All right.
Okay, I love it. Breakdown. Okay, here we go. So me just watching this, they get the financial advisor up there. I definitely think they could have given more information on what all he had to say, but most of it would have just been us being nosy and not necessarily relevant information. I think he could have gone a little bit more into, what all she spent his finances on. I mean, it should be no presumption that he was funding their lifestyle. And I think that her attorney was just so rude. He came off so rude. And all he had to say was, I need you to answer yes or no. I need you to only answer yes or no. And if you ask the question 6 times or 6 different ways and you're wanting only yes or no and the person doesn't give that to you, communicate, use your words, say, I want just a yes or no. Don't ask a question. And literally on multiple occasions, when the accountant would try to respond, he would immediately go into the next thing. The accountant is wanting to give context to the answers because you could say, like, have you ever killed someone? A yes or no answer is yes. And that could look really bad. But if the context is there was an accident and somebody died in that car accident, it's like, well, did you kill someone? Well, I was accidentally involved in a 3-car accident that someone died in. Yes, I mean, someone died in that accident. I feel like I'm responsible. That's different than just, yes, I'm responsible for the death of someone. You know what I mean? Like, everything has context. I think that it's normally not a wise thing to badger a witness that has a good likability rate because the jury is thinking the same thing that we're thinking. Like, damn, he's rude. And also, appearances do matter. That is somebody's sweet grandpa. Like, that, I do not think that will be perceived well on any account. The $500 bottle of wine thing blows my damn mind. And this guy's giving the same type of information we already knew. Also, trying to shame him for paying, what was it, $710 an hour? Like, the guy's got to make a living. And let me remind you, comparing wages in Virginia to wages in California and New York, there is no comparison. The cost of living is higher in New York and California. So, I mean, I don't know what the difference is, but you couldn't get a Barbie playhouse to live in California for less than, $2,500 a month in somebody's backyard with no AC or heat. Context matters. And yeah, trying to shame him for how much you were paid for your deposition. Well, fuck yeah, it's his time, and time is money. Like, that doesn't mean what he's saying is any less factual. He was ruthless. He was ruthless. I do think he made it seem like he wanted an actual answer. And I think, again, it was such a simple solution. Say yes or no. I need just a yes or no answer. And he'd already been warned about badgering. So that was ridiculous. Yeah, they're not... Like, of course you want to, like, hound a witness, right? So, like, let's say... It's all about perception, though. Like, if it's someone that deserves it, or you catch somebody in a lie, or you're trying to manipulate a situation, okay, fine. But, like, these are basic-ass questions. And he's not even attempting to save face. When he got up there, he came in hot. Yeah, I mean, damn, I'm jelly too. But you know what? That man has worked his whole life, is clearly very good at his job, and probably works substantially more than 40 hours a week. Or he has to pay staff. I mean, it's expensive to do things. It's expensive to do this. I mean, that's ridiculous. That was ridiculous. I don't know how many witnesses are left. I'm sorry. I wish I did. Oh, yeah, but you have to think about how much money and property and assets that Johnny Depp has. I mean, yeah, that's gonna take a team. Like, that didn't even make any sense. Like, if he was trying to show bias there, it's like, We're looking at financials. Credit cards. It's not like he's making this shit up. Like it's all provable. The prices in California and New York are insane. I agree with this. And you know what? Like, he just kept bitching, trying to, like, demean the guy. If you wanted yes or no, like, why are we arguing? Just say yes or, like, just make it clear. The reason they were doing this was to show bias, but I don't think it came off that way. Especially considering what he's revealed. Like, it's not an opinion. You know what I mean? Like, there's actual documents for everything spent. So it's not like he was stating his opinion. I don't know what bias, you know, he could have looking at credit card statements and financial statements. Yeah, she really didn't. There's very mixed opinions on how people feel about the judge. Yeah, him not asking her to sign a prenup was bad advice on somebody's part. Like, I don't know if nobody told him to do that. If I don't know what he should have had her sign a prenup and not a postnup. That's oof. And also, like, yeah, come on. That's like a lifetime of money and then some. Yes, this is so true. The more they flustered him, the more they frustrated him. Like, they were trying to make him look bad. And I think that was what the judge, if you caught this, the judge was like, hey, just answer his questions and then you can fix it on redirect. Like, she was trying to tell him, like, don't lose it, buddy, because on redirect you can they'll ask these questions and you can answer them the way you want to and kind of like smooth this over. But man, they just made them so, like, they were trying so hard to make that guy look bad. It definitely backfired. I feel bad for the guy. Eight to 12. Yeah, like, obviously he's an accountant, y'all. Like, it's not opinions. It's not like, let's just put, like, okay, even with Dr. Curry, like, obviously she's more than qualified, right? But, like, let's flip this script. Somebody on the other side could be like, there's no way to definitively prove this mental diagnosis. Like, there's not like you can, like, do a blood test and, like, prove somebody's XY, you know, like, there's a lot of scrutiny around mental health, obviously, but that's why there's professionals, and that's why they're trained specifically in those things. Some asshole could say, well, you can't, like, prove that definitively. Like, there's no test that really does that. Like, this is just you in your professional capacity with your professional opinion saying she doesn't have PTSD. Like, he's a fucking accountant. Like, it's like they bought it on a card. They got it out of the bank. They put it into the bank. You know, like, 1 + 1 is 2. -1 is 1. So it's all there. Okay, I'm wondering, so one of the shitheads sent me a text message with a Instagram post, and I think it was their cousin was talking about it. I wonder if it's, I'll have to ask after this. I'll have to ask, figure it out. But it's like, can I get a yearbook? Can I get a yearbook to verify? Mm-hmm. I mean, I would have been like, you sign it or we don't get married. And if we're going to stay married, then it doesn't matter. I mean, there's things you can do too to like make sure you're not going to get, royally screwed. Like if you marry somebody that has money and it's like, let's make sure if you cheat on me that I can leave and not be destitute. You know what I mean? Like there's things you can do. But just to flat out not sign when you're worth $78 million and Johnny Depp with 2 kids, yeah, that was not. Very mixed opinions on the judge. Yeah, the judge was very sweet towards the accountant, for sure. I don't know why it's not letting me click this. She was very sweet towards the accountant. Cindy's got it. What bothers me is that they're trying to say that the two are mutually exclusive. That is disrespectful on so many levels and just absolutely based on nothing. I mean, the two are not mutually exclusive, and they're trying to present it as such. I'm not down. I'm just not down with that. I'm still not over this. So, like, I don't dog them for saying objection, objection hearsay, objections, but whatever. Like, it's literally their job to do that. Like, if they don't do their job, they can get disbarred. So, like, it's their actual job to do that. But, yeah. Like, don't talk shit to someone about not wasting the court's time. And there's probably, what do you want to say, a full day's worth of them sidebars, searching for papers, searching for the, like, honestly, probably an entire fucking day's worth. I bet if I went through every single day and just screen recorded all the breaks and made a compilation video, it would be hours and hours worth. This was epic. But same thing with the accountant. If y'all noticed that, I forget what it was. He asked him some word, and the accountant was like, well, what's your definition of that? Fair question. Could mean several things to several different people. And he refused to define it. It's like, well, what do you think? Well, it's like, in what way are you asking this question? Also, I thought them trying to troll him over what Johnny Depp did with his friend's ashes was like, there's no way that went well. Like, there's no way that went well. No way that went well. Like, if his friend left his ashes to Johnny Depp and Johnny's like, I'm going to shoot him out of a rocket. Like, whose fucking business is that? Also, mind y'all, it's his money. It's like Britney Spears. She wants to waste her money on whatever. let the girl live. Let Brittany do whatever she wants with her money that she worked for and earned. Like, it's Johnny's money. If he wants to waste $100,000 shooting ashes out of a rocket, which I'm not saying that's what it cost, he's entitled to do that. Just like you're entitled to do whatever you want at a funeral. That's crazy. She's not perjured herself yet. And I'm sure she'll get up there and say, I can't recall, and then avoid it.
All right, are we ready for the jury? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. This is me. I would never waste money on a $500. Like, I can't with that. Like, donate that to a fucking cause. Like, you know how many people's lives you could change with that? She has to get up there and say, like, they're gonna have to catch her.
All right. All right, Mr. Connolly, can you hear me okay?
I can, yes.
Can you just count to 5 for me, please?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Perfect, thank you. All right. Next question?
All right, Mr. Connolly, we were talking about Hicksville there, and you made a comment that you had suggested to Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard that they could keep it private or something along those lines.
I did, yes.
My question is just what prompted you to make that suggestion?
Well, I was getting kind of animated. It was getting animated, and no one wants to see their dirty laundry in public.
Well, I got sidetracked, but someone had a comment about perjury.
Were they both animated?
She has to
More so
tell an untruth after being sworn,
yes,
taking an oath to tell the truth, like in a court
Do you
proceeding.
remember anything in particular that Ms. Heard was saying at the time?
I don't recall, no. As I say, it wasn't really coherent. It was more of the animation.
This is perspective, guys.
The head movements and the stare looks and stuff that prompted me to do what I have to do,
Okay, let me answer this question.
Okay. Shifting gears a little bit. You listed out various places that you traveled with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard, and I think you listed Japan, Germany, Hicksville, and Australia. Do I have that right?
Correct, yes.
When were you in Australia?
That'd be 2015, Pirates 5.
And what were you doing in Australia?
My job. In that occasion, I flew out first. I usually fly out first to do the advance. The advance includes the check-in and accommodation. Not so much accommodation because Nathan Holmes, Ben King, and the chef called Russell, they had already been at the home, and got that sorted out. My main concern was locations, transport, local security, drivers, making sure all that's in line before Johnny gets there. Jerry judged our travel with Johnny into Australia. On arrival, I would have picked them up at the airport, as we do, take them to the house, or whatever accommodation they're staying in, and I would have peeled off. I'd have left it at that, went back to my apartment. Johnny would have been in maybe, it could be up to a week for, makeup, costume, before any shooting starts, in which time it gives me a time to run around some locations the studio, check out the studio, the locations, as well as be around for if Johnny wants to go for dinner at night anywhere. I would check out these places as well.
Mr. Conley, I'm sorry, I just had a little trouble hearing you there. Might be the connection, but could you speak maybe just a little bit slower? I'm sorry.
Okay. As I say, my job in Australia is just to secure all the advance. So I would check out, make sure the local drivers are there, all the cars are in order, the accommodations in order, the locations for shooting are all safe, liaison with production, what's expected of them. I would pick him up at the airport when he arrives, take him to the accommodation, peel off, go and check out a few restaurants in case he wants to go out. And if nothing's happening, stand in for that evening.
Does anything stand out to you about your time in Australia in 2015?
Yeah, Johnny lost a finger. One afternoon I was instructed to go to Johnny's accommodation.
Objection, and can we just?
Okay, all right. Hold on just a minute, Mr. Khan.
Gotta stretch my back. But yes, what's going on here? Yeah, with perjury, like that's the offense of like willingly telling a lie, a fake truth in court after you've been sworn in. And
all right, Mr. Connolly, please continue, but
discuss that
as
later.
you go, please avoid discussing the substance of any communications that you had with Mr. Depp or his security, and just focus on what you observed.
Okay. I arrived at Johnny's accommodation with my driver, Andrew. I noticed that there's an SUV, one of the security, the RST, resident security team. One of their vehicles is sitting outside the door with no driver. So I just assumed there's something up. There's a security car there, but no driver. As I approach the door, I hear a muffled shouting and screaming, and quite muffled though, because the entrance to this house, there's a massive oak door. I mean, it's huge, and it's got to be about 25 mil thick. So I open it, and it's chaos. It's screaming and shouting, but all I can see with my eyes is Johnny. He's wearing a jacket, a hat, and a bag with his notebooks. I always know that bag because it's a grey canvas bag. And he's sort of, nursing one hand. So I'm saying, well, hey, what's going on? And it's screaming and shouting. It's madness. Amber's irate. I mean, tenacious. It's crazy stuff. Johnny's, shouting back. So I say, Johnny, let's go out, that's my job, to remove him from the situation. Let's go out. I do a couple of steps with him. Johnny, give me 5 minutes now. 5 minutes. Well, he's a boss, There's no bullets flying. So, okay, give him 2 minutes. I say, let's go. Eventually, I get him out. I managed to get him outside the door. We go downstairs. But Amber appears from somewhere. Now, I don't know if Amber was upstairs or in the room to the left or wherever, but she appears and she's screaming, berating him. She's basically berating him. Yeah, fuck off, she's saying, Johnny. Yeah, that's what you do. Fuck off. That's what you do all the time. That's all you ever do is fuck off. You fuck off with your guys, you're fucking coward. That's what you fucking do. You fucking coward.
I
Fuck
love
off
that
with
he
you guys.
gave no warning. It
Big
was just
man,
like,
all that-
fuck
all
off.
that shit that goes with it. Gets them downstairs. By this time Amber's on the threshold of the accommodation. And she's screaming, you know, fuck off, you fucking coward. That kind of words, you know. And I get him into the car, and I want to sit in the same. I usually sit in the front seat shotgun. But I want to sit in the same seat at the back, so I can have a look what's going on here and have a chat and have a talk. But when I get around the car, the driver's not off the door, so he's out the door again, and he's making his way back up the stairs. I get back round again. By the time I get to the top, there's two concrete stairs to the front door. He's just crossing the threshold, and the screaming starting again. Amber is screaming again, Johnny, let's go. And this time it's a wee bit more force, and I managed to actually basically pull him out of the place. Get him into the car, doors are locked this time, into the car, we take off. I got him back to my apartment using, a sort of secret way through the underground car park and service lifts. I get him up to my apartment, get him into my apartment, start washing his hand, basically triaging his hand, washing it first aid. It's a mess. His finger's just a mess. It's like one of them cartoon exploding cigars. I always think in my mind that one of them cigars that blow up, the cartoon foam. And it's so flapping around. And I can see bone. There's bone there. It's smashed to bits. And he's wincing as I'm trying to wash his hand. Anyway, I sit him down and I phoned Debbie the nurse, who's living in the same apartment block as me. So that's my first thing, phone Debbie. Phone Debbie, about 20 minutes later, if that, I got the call, maybe 25, maybe half an hour. But she turns up with Dr. Kipper. So Dr. Kipper does his thing, Nurse Debbie dresses it all, but Kipper is saying, right, this we have to go to the hospital with this. There's no other way. We have to go to the hospital. This has to be seriously looked at. We get to the hospital, and that's when that's when his treatment started, you know.
Okay. When you were in the presence of Mr. Depp and Miss Heard in the house in Australia, how far away were you from Miss Heard?
When I first entered the house, Miss Heard wasn't visible to me. Only Johnny. It's only when we started to leave, Miss Heard appeared, and she's probably, you're talking 3 feet.
Did you observe any injuries on Miss Heard?
No injuries. No injuries.
I'm sorry, what was your answer?
No injuries, none.
Other than the injury to his finger, did you observe any injuries on Mr. Depp?
No. No. Well, I say no. You know, there was a mark in his face, and I didn't know what that was, so I never really put it down too much. But in the hospital, I took a photograph, and when I look at that photograph, I can see 2 injuries. When we're sitting in the car,
hold on, Mr. Khan.
Okay. Objection to the extent he's going to be talking about what the mark is on his, since he didn't see what happened and he's not a doctor, we can't describe what.
No, that's fine, Your Honor. We
can move on? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, next question.
I think you've generally described for us the kinds of things Ms. Heard was saying. How would you describe her overall demeanor when she and Mr. Depp were in each other's presence in the house in Australia?
Good days and bad days.
I'm sorry, I mean on that particular day.
On that particular day, I had never seen him in the house that particular day. The only time I seen Miss Heard and Johnny in that house, is when I arrived there to extract them.
And how did Miss Heard seem to you when you saw her on that day when you arrived to extract him?
Crazy. Fierce, fierce.
What was the last thing Miss Heard said as you were taking Mr. Depp out of the house to go to your apartment and then the hospital?
Yeah, the last words I recall hearing as I'm getting Johnny out is, yeah, just fuck off with your guys, you're fucking covered like you always do.
I have no further questions.
All right, cross-examination, Mr. Nadelhoff.
Mr. Connolly, you still work for Mr. Depp?
I do, yeah.
And you've worked for him now for about 18 years?
No.
Well, 2 years ago, you said you worked for him for 16 years, so 2 more years would be 18.
No, I worked with him. I didn't work for him. I worked for a guy called Jerry Judge in Music and Arts. Johnny Depp never paid me. Johnny Depp started paying me 2 years ago.
Okay, so now you were working. Jerry Judge was your boss until he passed away. Is that right?
Okay.
Okay, and now you get paid directly by Mr. Depp, correct?
Right.
And you're paid a salary by Mr. Depp?
No.
Okay. And Mr. Depp's also provided you gifts, correct?
Gifts?
Money, gift.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. Yes, Johnny gave me gifts. I've given Johnny gifts.
And she's given you gifts over $8,500, correct?
$8,500.
Yeah.
He gave me a lot more than that.
Okay. And you're loyal to Mr. Depp, right?
Yes, of course I'm loyal to Mr. Depp. I'd be loyal to you if I was working for you.
Okay. Now, going to Australia, you said you went to Australia in 2015 with Mr. Depp, correct? Or you went before Mr. Depp, but you were there to work for Mr. Depp, correct?
Correct.
And Jerry Judge was also there?
Not when I arrived, no.
But Jerry Judge was eventually in Australia, correct?
Right.
And Nathan Holmes was also in Australia as well, right?
Right.
And Mr. Depp came to Australia in February of 2015, correct?
Correct.
And when Mr. Depp first came to Australia, Amber was not with Mr. Depp, right?
I don't recall if Amber arrived with Johnny or Amber arrived later.
You don't know one way or the other?
No.
And Mr. Depp stayed in a house in Australia, correct?
Correct.
And you and the security team were about 40 minutes away from the house Mr. Depp was renting, correct?
25, 30. 30, 40, yeah, you're correct. If it's a traffic day, yeah, 40 minutes at most.
And alcohol was in the house in Australia, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. Depp consumed alcohol before Amber arrived in Australia, isn't that right?
Yeah, he would have done, yes.
Okay. And, if Mr. Depp consumed illegal drugs before Amber arrived in Australia?
I'm going to object to speculation.
I wouldn't know.
Good.
And do you know if Mr. Depp spent any time with Marilyn Manson in Australia before Amber arrived?
Don't recall. I don't recall Marilyn Manson being there.
So as Mr. Depp's security, you don't know if Mr. Depp was with Marilyn Manson at any time?
I left Australia to smuggle 2 dogs back out of Australia back to.
No. I'm talking about it. I'm talking about in the beginning of March 2015. You were there. You were. You don't know one way or the other.
No.
Were you seeing Mr. Depp every day? In early March?
No, not at the beginning. I had other duties.
Okay. So you don't know what Mr. Depp was doing at that time, correct?
No, I wasn't with him.
Okay. And you don't know when Amber arrived in Australia, correct?
No.
Okay. But you do know that Amber stayed with Mr. Depp, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you talked about a resident security team that was at the Australia house, is that right?
That's correct.
And were there about 4? Was there anyone from the resident security team in the house when you arrived on March 8th, 2015?
No.
Okay. And the resident security team is it your understanding that they were there, that they were kind of guarding the house?
They would have been in the grounds, but the substantial grounds, real substantial grounds. They would have been at the ground somewhere.
But they didn't go into the house on March 8th, correct?
I don't know. I never seen them in the house.
And so when you arrived at the house and went in, was it just Mr. Depp and Amber Heard?
Just Mr. Depp and Amber Heard.
And
There
before
may
you,
have been someone else there. I never visibly seen anyone else. I wasn't there long enough to chat to anybody.
and when you arrived at the house, you could hear a ruckus, correct?
Yes. Well, yes, I could hear. Yeah, I could hear. Just definitely hear something through the door. Yeah.
But you said the door was so thick you couldn't hear the actual words that were being said. Is that right?
No, just a shouting.
And then you went in the house and saw Mr. Depp in the foyer, correct?
Yes, correct.
And Mr. Depp was trying to urinate in the foyer, wasn't he?
Who cares?
No.
Mr. Depp had his penis out of his pants,
Objection.
didn't he?
Yeah.
I think
God bless.
Relevance.
I'll know. Next question.
And you were trying to get Mr. Depp out of the house, correct?
Oh shit.
Correct. I'm trying to get Mr. Depp out of the house. Yes.
And Mr. Depp was refusing to leave the house, was he not?
Oh shit.
Not so much refused. He just wanted 2 minutes to say his piece.
You took Mr. Depp's arm to try to move him out, but he broke away, isn't that right?
Yes.
I mean, so he was strong enough to break away from your grip, correct?
No.
So you had his arm and he broke away, though, correct?
No.
Isn't that what you just said?
No. I let him go.
You let go. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't
I'm not
easy.
going to drag him by.
So Mr. Depp's your boss. You'll do what Mr. Depp wants, correct?
No.
It's not easy to get Mr. Depp out of the house, correct?
Not easy.
Now, can we play Exhibit 380A, which is already in evidence?
Plaintiffs or defendants, I'm sorry.
It's Defendant's Exhibit 380A.
What is this? Sorry, what is this?
And this is a recording from Australia, and it's just of Mr. Depp.
I don't think that's in evidence, Your Honor.
Hold on, it's not in evidence.
Our Plaintiff's Exhibit 380A.
I don't believe there are any recordings from Australia in evidence, Your Honor.
I don't have
I think
anything in
this-
There
evidence.
definitely is. It's just of Mr. Depp. We can,
I don't have 380 in evidence.
it's 380A.
380. I have, Jamie says it was ID, but never admitted.
It was never admitted. It was.
Your Honor, the recordings from Australia have other voices on them. and
We're only
they
asking
also-
for it's only the clip of Mr. Depp.
Okay, wait,
Well,
I
I
have, it's actually plaintiffs, 380A, minute 33 to 34.
What's the foundation for using it with this witness?
He was at the house.
It's in evidence,
Yeah,
it's
okay.
fine. So you play that clip, correct?
Correct.
That is on plaintiffs.
What you are and who you are and how you fuck me over and make me feel sick of myself. The still left in the day makes you dye your hair as you rose.
Did you hear that, Mr. Connolly?
I did, yes.
And that was the sort of condition Mr. Depp was in when you saw him at the house, correct?
Yes, yes.
Mr. Depp was upset and angry when you saw him at the house, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Now, did you take Mr. Depp to the hospital?
Along with others, yes.
Is it your testimony that Mr. Depp was coherent at the hospital?
Yes.
Let's show Defendant's Exhibit 370, and I'd just like you to look at something for a moment. I'm not publishing it, I just want to show him a document. Defendant's Exhibit 370.
Your Honor, I'm going to object on foundation grounds. The witness is not even copied on this document.
I'm going to ask him a question and ask him if it refreshes his recollection. That's all I was going to ask him about. I can use any document to refresh.
Where do you want to approach? Because I want to see. You can take it back. Switch document.
You can take it down. Was Mr. Depp's finger was filled with dirt, grime, and paint when you saw it?
Yes,
And now you say you saw no bruises or cuts on Amber on March 8th, 2015, correct?
correct.
Isn't it true that your main concern was Mr. Depp and getting him out of the house, correct?
Correct.
You weren't concentrating on Amber, correct?
I was close enough. If there was any marks on Amber's face, I would have picked that up in 2 minutes.
As you're
So
trying
I stayed at the Home Office.
As you're trying to pull Mr. Depp out of the house, you're scanning Amber for bruises and cuts.
Not scanning, but I'm looking at it.
As you're moving Mr. Depp out of the house, correct?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, how do I know what she's going to live?
Right.
I'm watching her. When I'm
This
with-
guy's
when I'm with a
fucking
client
over
on
it.
A bar situation, a house situation. I watch what's happening around me.
But you're not.
I know where the client is. The client's with me.
Right. The client was with you, and you're not scanning. You didn't scan Miss Heard's body for.
I scan everything. I
You
watch
scan everything on her body?
Not everything on her body.
Yeah.
She's wearing long sleeves, from what I recall.
And at the hospital, the doctor was told that Mr. Depp cut his finger with a knife, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And you understand that the damage at the house, at Mr. Depp's rented house amounted to about $100,000, correct?
Objection, call for speculation.
I'll allow it. Next question.
In Hicksville, other than when you first arrived, you didn't go to the trailer that Mr. Depp and Amber were staying in, is that right?
Only when I delivered them to it.
Right. And then after you delivered them to
That-
the,
when I delivered them to it, when we first got there,
right.
we went inside and had a look around. Yeah.
But after that, you never went inside the trailer after that, correct?
Correct.
So you have no idea what went on in the trailer between Mr. Depp and Amber, isn't that right?
I was told.
But you have no idea, you don't have any personal knowledge as to
I
what
never
happened.
seen it.
Right.
No, I never seen it.
And you have no idea how much damage was done to the trailer, correct? Personal
I
knowledge.
do have an idea.
You have no idea what happened to Amber in the trailer, isn't that right?
That's correct.
And you don't, and you talked about that there was tension between Amber and Mr. Depp. You don't know what started the fight, correct?
Correct.
Did you see Mr. Depp grab another woman's arm before they moved off to the truck, before the fight started?
No.
Were you with the company when were you with the group?
No. I was maybe 20 feet away observing. That's my job, not to get involved. I don't sit with my clients in a personal situation. I'm just observed.
Now,
He's fucking
you
over it.
testified
He's over
that at
it.
times you saw marks and bruises on Mr. Depp, a fat lip, I think you said. You don't have dates for those times that you saw that, right?
I don't recall. No, you're talking. That's a long time ago.
Look at that look.
And you testified in the UK in this. You testified in the UK, correct?
Correct.
And you gave a witness statement too in the UK, correct?
Correct.
And you never testified to seeing any marks, bruises, or injuries on Mr. Depp, isn't that right, in the UK?
Well, was he asked
I
about
wasn't
it?
asked in the UK.
But you never
Oop,
testified.
called that
you never
one.
testified to that, right?
I wasn't asked.
Okay. Now, you talked about a private plane that you saw a plastic lighter bounce off of Mr. Depp's chest, correct?
Correct.
And you said you saw Mr. Depp smirking and then he said, "Was that it?" Is that right?
No.
You don't know what started the fight there, correct?
Called that one.
Correct.
Okay. And you talked about at the lofts, I think you called it, in Los Angeles, you saw a Coke can get thrown somewhere in the vicinity of Mr. Depp, correct?
I've seen a can,
Right.
not a Coke can. I couldn't tell you what can it was.
Okay. And you don't know what happened before you saw the Coke can get thrown, correct?
Exactly.
Correct.
Okay. And you talked about this picture of that you took in Southeast Asia, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you never mentioned in the UK matter or in your witness statement Mr. Depp having scratches and bruises on the train, correct?
I was never prompted. I was never asked.
You gave a witness statement that gave the what you saw and the relationship between Amber and Mr. Depp, and you never talked about bruises or cuts on Mr. Depp in Southeast Asia, correct?
No, I wasn't asked that.
Okay. Now, you said only Johnny could make requests for a private dining car, isn't that right?
I said that.
Only Johnny needed a private dining car. Miss Heard didn't need a private dining car, correct?
That would be correct. Oh yeah, that would definitely be correct. Yeah,
Okay.
only Johnny Depp would need a private dining car, but Johnny doesn't want a private dining car.
Okay. Now, you were not present in Miss Heard and Mr. Depp's cabin on the train, right?
No.
And if a fight
That's
occurred,
correct. That's correct.
and if a fight occurred in the cabin, you'd have no way of knowing about it, right?
I wouldn't know.
And you don't know if Mr. Depp was strangling Miss Heard, do you?
No, I wouldn't know.
You don't know if Mr. Depp had his shirt wrapped around Amber's neck, do you?
Objection.
Speculation. Cumulative.
No, I wouldn't
There we
know.
go.
The only reason I would know anything in that cabin.
No, okay. You would know. You
Cabin
answered.
open.
Sir, you answered that.
All right, we can move on.
Okay. And if we could put up, please, plaintiff's exhibit 120, and this is at 190, and I believe 120 has been in evidence
Well, I have
before.
120A, 120B, and 120C.
So I think this would be 120D, if it,
120D.
yeah.
D.
And I would, Mr. Connolly, I'm asking you questions about the fourth one down. Do you see that?
Yeah, it's not very
Uh,
good.
I'm going to
Tiny.
objection. The document is hearsay. I don't know what the exception would be.
Okay, I'll looking forward.
Did he really think there was going to be an objection there? Like, was he serious with that? Also, like, dude can pee on whatever he wants. If he wants to piss the bed that he paid for, that he owns, like, do it. If he wants to piss in a cactus because he thinks it's going to help it grow big, whatever, he's entitled to do that. Who cares? Yeah, where did that even come from? Yeah, we're comparing apples to oranges here. He pissed on something that he paid for that wasn't a mess. She shit the silk sheets. One is sterile, one is not.
Thank you, Dan.
Ooh, big facts.
Mr. Connolly, you agree that Ms. Hurd's nothing but respectful and professional to you, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. I have nothing further.
All right, redirect.
Thank you, Lord.
Mr. Connolly, very briefly, when you were in Ms. Hurd's presence in the house in Australia on the day that Mr. Depp lost his fingertip, how far away were you from Ms. Hurd?
On the exit, on the egress, about 3 feet, 4 feet at the most.
Can you estimate for us about how long you were in Ms. Hurd's presence?
Oh, you know what? Best way to do this is think about it and count it out. Okay?
His eyebrows.
15 seconds, 20 seconds.
How was the light?
Well, it's Australia. The door is
Oh my God.
massive. It's a wall of glass behind them. The light is absolutely fine. You couldn't get better.
All right, I have nothing further.
All right, is this a witness subject to recall?
I think so. Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Connolly, since you're subject to recall, do not discuss your testimony with anybody and don't watch anything about this case, okay? But you're free to log off today.
Your
All
Honor, yeah.
right, you're free to log off today, though,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, your next witness, Mr. Jenkins. Yeah. Mr. Jenkins, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can, Your Honor.
All right, perfect. Thank you, sir. All right. If you raise your right hand for me, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
All right, thank you, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Jenkins. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
And could you please state your full name for the record?
Starling, Jenkins, and Depp.
And Mr. Jenkins, where do you live?
Los Angeles, California.
And what is your occupation?
Executive chauffeur of security.
And how long have you worked as an executive chauffeur and in security?
Executive chauffeur for 30 years, security for 8 years.
And what occupations did you hold prior to working as an executive chauffeur and in security?
Route sales executive in the United States Marines.
Mr. Jenkins, do you know the plaintiff?
Oh shit,
in
this guy
case,
ain't gonna
Johnny
take
Depp?
no shit.
Yes, I do.
And when did you first meet Mr. Depp?
1993.
How did you first meet Mr. Depp?
He used delivery service to transport him to and from.
So in the 30 or so years that you've known Mr. Depp, what services have you performed for him over the course of that period?
Child care, animal care, personal assistant duties, security, and transportation.
And could you estimate approximately how many hours per week would you provide those services to Mr. Depp?
40 to 60 hours.
And can you describe generally your interactions with Mr. Depp in the time that you've worked for him?
Pleasant, always upbeat.
Do you know the defendant in this case, Amber Heard?
Yes.
And when did you first meet Ms. Heard?
After the filming of the Rum Diary project.
And can you describe generally your interactions with Ms. Heard?
Pleasant, cordial, very respectful.
And so in your time working with Mr. Depp, did you ever observe Mr. Depp's and Ms. Heard's interactions with one another?
Yes.
And can you describe those interactions generally, please?
Very cordial, very aware that people are around them, very, very friendly.
Did you ever see them argue?
Yes.
Can you describe what you observed about those arguments?
It would be initiated by her. She would try to engage with him. He would tell me to turn the music up.
So, where did these arguments take place?
In the car.
Do you recall how many times you witnessed them argue?
Twice.
Mr. Jenkins, turning your attention to April 21st, 2016, can you tell the jury what you recall about that day?
Could you repeat the question, sir?
Sure. So turning your attention to April 21st, 2016, can you tell the jury what you recall about that day?
It was the birthday party being held at the penthouse.
And when you say the penthouse, what are you referring to?
It's the Eastern Columbia building.
And what were you doing that evening?
That evening, I was assigned security on the detail.
Were you inside the residence while the birthday party was taking place?
I was in the CP, the command post that's stationed on the same floor, right outside of the elevator.
And did you interact with Ms. Hurd at all that evening?
Yes, I did.
Can
In
you,
regards to getting her clients keys, parking, making sure no one else was on the floor that wasn't invited to the party.
were there any issues at the birthday party at the time that you were present at the penthouses?
No issues except for the boss did not show up.
And do you recall what time you left that day?
11:15 p.m. that evening.
And Mr. Jenkins, what happened the next day, April 22nd, 2016?
I arrived early, 10:45. Went upstairs to the penthouse. I was informed by Amber that she got in a fight with Johnny last night. She threw his personal property over the balcony into the streets, 9th and Broadway.
And when you say personal property, what are you referring to?
His phone, wallet, credit cards, passports, everything that's in his wallet.
Did Ms. Hurd say anything else to you about this altercation?
Nothing except they were fighting.
So what did you do after Ms. Hurd informed you that she'd thrown Mr. Depp's personal property off the balcony?
Formulated a plan with Norm from the office to use the Find My Phone app, hit the streets, and try to get lucky.
Did you end up finding Mr. Depp's phone?
Yes, I did. In Skid Row, probably 6 miles from the house.
And who had the phone?
A homeless gentleman, unhoused gentleman. I approached him about the phone. He was honest. He returned it. I gave him a reward for it.
And what was the reward?
$420, chicken tacos, chips, apples, Fiji water.
Oh my God, I love it.
After finding Mr. Depp's phone, what did you do?
I returned to the penthouse, showed the phone to Amber that I retrieved it. I left it in the CP for the evening security to return it to Mr. Depp.
So after figuring out things with the phone, what happened next?
What happened next is I walked Amber to the car. We got everybody in the car. She's on her way to Coachella. I went back to the penthouse to retrieve the dogs and the luggage.
Were you also going to Coachella with Ms. Hurd?
Yes, I was. I was the transportation for Amber and her friends while she was at Coachella.
So how did you get to Coachella?
Drove the SUV provided by Johnny, put the animals and all the luggage in, and headed out to the venue.
And the morning of April 22nd, did you see any injuries on Ms. Hurd?
No marks, no injuries.
And so driving out to Coachella, did anyone drive with you?
I was in the car alone except for the animals.
And how did Miss Heard get to Coachella?
She drove a Mustang.
Was anyone else in her car?
She was with, I believe, her sister and one other friend, her sister, Savannah.
And do you know how many days Miss Heard and her friends were planning to stay at Coachella?
So the following Monday, I believe it's the 25th of April, we departed.
And do you recall where Miss Heard was staying at Coachella?
We were staying at the Parker boutique hotels there in Palm Springs, outside of Coachella.
Were you also staying at the Parker Hotel?
I also stayed there.
And so did you attend Coachella for work or for pleasure?
For work.
And what was your job that weekend?
Provide security and transportation, animal care.
Look at his face.
Rolling assistant, take care of her, whatever she needed while she was there at the Parker or in the outside.
He's like, everything. My job was
Do you
literally
recall what time
everything, but having
approximately
fun.
You arrived at the Parker Hotel on April 22nd?
Around 5:30ish, maybe 5:45.
And what did Miss Heard and her friends do that evening, April 22nd?
That evening, we arrived, we were assigned the rooms, we went with the staff of the Parker Hotel around to the suites where we were staying. They let us in, we let all the luggage in, and we proceeded to
Like, what do they think he did at Coachella? The
plan for
fuck?
that evening to depart by 7:15ish to get to the festival.
And how did Miss Heard and her friends get from the hotel to the festival that evening?
I drove them directly to there.
And did you have any discussions with Miss Heard on the way to Coachella that evening?
We had a conversation pertaining to the surprise she left in the boss's bed prior to leaving the apartment.
And when you refer to the surprise in the boss's bed, what are you referring to?
The defecation.
And what did Miss Heard say about the defecation in Mr. Depp's bed?
A horrible practical joke gone wrong.
Mr. Jenkins, what observations did you make about Miss Heard at Coachella in April 2016?
She had no words. She was there to whoop it up. It's her birthday. She's with her friends.
And how often were you with her that weekend?
I was with her every day. She went to the venue from the time that we interacted with the wallet incident, the night before at the party, all the way until Monday. We returned with the pets and the luggage.
And did you observe anything about Miss Heard's health that weekend?
She got sick.
Do you know
She
what?
got sick at the venue at the night.
Do you know what caused Miss Heard to be sick?
Taco Bell.
She was eating the magic mushrooms and drinking red wine on an empty stomach.
And how do you know that she drank red wine and took magic mushrooms?
I saw the room service and I went to their room to collect them, to take them out that evening.
So is that something? Excuse me. Is that something you witnessed?
I witnessed it.
And what did you do in response to Miss Heard being sick at Coachella?
I collected her, got her in the vehicle. She didn't want anyone else to know that she was sick. Take her back to the Parker alone. I took her to the 7-Eleven where I retrieved hydrating fluids, Advil, and let her have those. Got her back to the Parker, got her into the suite, and then went back to pick up everyone else.
This guy's
And
a
Mr. Jenkins,
fucking
when you said Miss
G.
Heard got sick, do you recall what her symptoms were?
Magic mushrooms on an empty
Yes, she was
stomach.
throwing up.
His facial expressions are everything.
Mr. Jenkins, did you see any injuries of any kind on Miss Heard April 22nd, 2016?
No injuries.
I'll sustain. So, yes.
What about the rest of that weekend, Mr. Jenkins? Any injuries that you saw?
No injuries.
Have you ever witnessed any physical abuse between Mr. Depp and Miss Heard?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Nothing further.
All right, cross-examination.
That was incredible. Homeless guy with the phone, $420 plus some Mexican food to
Good
get the
afternoon,
phone
Mr.
back.
Jenkins.
Coachella, shit in the
Good
bed.
So just to be clear on the chronology, you met Mr. Depp in 1993, is that right?
Correct.
And you've worked for him ever since?
Off and on, yes.
Okay. And your salary's paid by Mr. Depp, correct?
Salary, no.
The fact he said
You receive
surprise.
pay for the work that you do for Mr.
Yes.
Depp, correct?
Surprised
Of course,
she left.
yes, of course.
And what Mr. Depp's security is your highest priority in your job, correct?
Oh Lord, let's badger him for making a living.
You're loyal to Mr.
His
Depp.
and his family. And his family,
You're loyal to Mr. Depp, right?
yes.
Now, I want to turn to the
You
night
already
of
know.
April 21st, 2016. You just to recap, you said you were working a security shift at Amber's birthday at the Eastern Columbia building that evening, correct?
Correct.
And you said that your shift ended around 11:15, correct?
Correct.
And you said the boss still hadn't shown up by the time that you left the Eastern Columbia building, right?
Correct.
So you have no idea where Mr. Depp was or what he was doing from 9:30 p.m. that evening until at least 11:15 when you left the Eastern Columbia building, right?
No, I did know what he was doing. He was attending to his mother.
You weren't with him.
Look at the look on her
No,
face.
it's
She's
amazing.
like, that didn't work out well, did it?
All right. That's information that you received, but you have no personal knowledge of that.
Look at this.
I have no reason to doubt it. It came from Sean.
Okay.
That.
Okay. So Mr. Bett told you that?
Look, she
The
is.
boss is out there.
Right. Mr. Bett told you that he was tending to
Oh
his
my
mother
God,
that
the
night?
rage.
He didn't say mother, he said the boss was out there. I'm aware of
Oh,
what the situation was, the time frame. He's with his mother.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Okay. And did you have any understanding that he had a meeting with his new business manager earlier that evening where he was told that he was running out of money and that his taxes hadn't been paid in years? Did you have any understanding of that?
Objection.
Or anyone else?
Objection. Foundation calls for speculation.
100%.
Next question.
And you didn't see Mr. Depp that night, right?
No, I did not.
So you came back the next morning to escort Amber to Coachella.
Y'all are catching on to this
Right.
hearsay rule
And you
and
say
the
that Amber
objection.
told you that she had thrown Mr. Depp's phone off the roof.
Correct.
And did you come to understand that Mr. Depp had thrown her phone off the roof that evening prior to when Amber threw Mr. Depp's phone off the roof?
She informed me of that.
Okay, she informed you of that. So when you went outside to look for Mr. Depp's phone, you weren't looking for Miss Heard's phone, were you?
She had her phone. She was trying to re-download and back it up.
Okay, so you were only looking for Mr. Depp's phone when you went downstairs to try to, you found it with an unhoused person, you said, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and did I hear you right that you said it was 6 miles away where you found the phone?
Correct.
It actually wasn't 6 miles away. It was actually right below the building, the ECB
No,
building,
it was
correct?
not.
Okay,
No, it was not.
Get him. Get his ass.
Does he have a way to see documents that just him, Your Honor?
Yes.
Okay. Could you please pull up the witness statement, Mr. Jenkins? Mr. Jenkins, do you remember giving testimony on Mr. Depp's behalf in the UK trial?
Yes, I did.
And you gave a witness statement first in writing, correct? Do you remember that?
Yes.
And then you were examined by the attorneys in the trial, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Can you see on your screen the statement do you see a witness statement?
Yes, I see it.
It says witness statement of Starling Jenkins, right?
Correct.
And this is the statement that you wrote and signed as part of the UK trial on behalf of Mr. Depp, correct?
Correct.
Okay. If you can scroll, please, to page 3 of the document. And Mr. Jenkins, I'm going to read you what you wrote in paragraph 13.
Okay.
And we can go from there. On paragraph 13, you wrote in your witness statement in the UK trial, the Find My iPhone application indicated that Johnny's phone was somewhere on the streets below the balcony of the residence. Did I read that right?
If that's what it says, that's what it says. I'm telling you, the phone was in Skid Row.
Okay,
I have a
so
photo of the gentleman that found it. I have the location where the phone was found.
isn't Skid Row just a few blocks away from the Eastern Columbia building?
No, it's on 6th and Main, I guess, depending on what area you are.
Okay, so one of these two sworn statements, either what you just said in court just now that it was found 6 miles away, or this, one of these is false, correct?
It's just inadequate as far as the location.
He
The
could have
location
checked it
is not
and it been
really-
there and been found somewhere else. Like,
It's not on Broadway. It was
Okay.
found on Broadway by the unhoused man, and then he lives off of Skid Row.
Okay. Now let's move on to Coachella, please.
Yes.
You were with Amber and her friends that
you
weekend
ain't
at
lying, Mary.
Coachella.
You are not lying.
And you testified a little bit about what you saw. Is it fair to say that Amber and her friends were having a good time that weekend?
Yes, sir.
And there were thousands of other people at that music festival too, correct?
Correct.
Were you aware that Amber's sister Whitney was pregnant and sober that weekend?
Wasn't my information, wasn't my knowledge.
Were you aware that Amber's sister Whitney threw up in a parking lot that weekend?
No.
To your knowledge and understanding, Mr. Jenkins, there's nothing wrong with wanting to spend time with your friends at a music festival after being abused by your husband, right?
Oh, that's the logic you want to use? In his defense, if she's puking at Coachella, like,
It's
what
not
the
an
fuck is he
abnormal
supposed
thing
to
wanna be
think?
around your friends, correct?
She was partying it up with her friends. She was
Okay.
partying it up.
And you said you didn't hear anything about, she didn't say anything to you about domestic violence having taken place, correct?
Nothing in the car pertaining to that.
Would it surprise you that she might not want to talk to someone who had worked for her husband for around 23 years at that point about domestic violence? Would that surprise you?
Objection, speculation, Your Honor.
Sustain the objection. Next question.
The look on his face,
Mr.
y'all.
texted you on May 12th,
Whole ass vibe.
2016, asking you to call her, correct?
Correct.
And you did not bother to respond to that text, correct?
Correct.
And that was the last communication that you had with her, correct?
Correct.
Now, you weren't, just to be clear, you weren't at Amber's house on Orange Avenue in March 2013 when Johnny was there, correct?
We'll send bail money, Gabby.
I might have driven to the location. I'm familiar with the address.
But you didn't enter the house at any point in March 2013, correct?
Depending on if he had luggage or gifts going upstairs, I might have.
But you didn't hang out with them inside the house, right?
Hurry up and wait in the car, sir.
And you weren't at the Hicksville Trailer Palace in
This is
late
what I
May or
was
early
thinking
June
right here.
2013, right?
No.
You weren't on a plane flight from Boston to Los Angeles in May 2014, correct? With Johnny and Amber. You weren't with Mr. Depp and Amber in the Bahamas in August 2014, correct?
Correct.
You weren't with Mr. Depp and Amber in Tokyo in January 2015, correct?
No, I was not there. Correct.
You weren't with Mr. Depp and Amber in Australia in March 2015, correct?
Correct.
You weren't at Thanksgiving with them in Penthouse 5 of the Eastern Columbia building in November 2015,
Oh, come
correct?
on.
I believe I was there.
You
I
didn't,
might
you
have
weren't,
been in some detail. I don't have the schedule, but I might have been some of the detail.
You were-
It's a holiday.
sure. You don't have any specific recollection of that one way or the other, then, correct?
I would probably say I was on duty that day.
Okay.
It's a holiday.
Okay. You weren't celebrating Thanksgiving in Penthouse 5 with them that evening, correct?
I was in the CP,
Okay, and that's a separate room, correct?
separate room on the same level. Correct.
And you weren't in the Bahamas in late December 2015, correct? With them?
Correct.
You weren't in the ECB with just the two of them the night of December 15th, 2015, correct?
That is right before the Christmas party, I believe. Correct.
And finally, you weren't in the penthouse of the Eastern Columbia building on the night of May 21st, 2016 with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard, correct?
Correct.
And you'd agree that you have no personal knowledge of what went on between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard behind closed doors, correct?
Correct.
Nothing further. Thank you.
All right, redirect.
Here's my thing. I'm all about some Coachella. I'm all about Coachella. But if you want to talk about drug use and
Your Honor,
drinking,
do we have
like I wouldn't bring up
Mr.
Coachella,
Jenkins' witness statement,
you know?
or perhaps?
And yes, I can't believe that her pregnant sister would go to Coachella. I'm not judging. I'm just saying, you know, I wouldn't do it. Also, if you see someone puking at Coachella, like you're going to assume.
And if we could go to the
Coachella.
third page, please. Mr. Jenkins, directing your attention to paragraph 13, which Mr. Rottenborn had you look at just a second ago.
Yes.
He read the first sentence of that witness statement.
Of course. We left out the context.
Find my iPhone application indicating that Giant's phone was somewhere on the street floor of the balcony residence. Walked out. Could you please read for the jury the second part of that paragraph?
Why would you set yourself up like
I
this if you're
walked out
Amber's
into the
attorney?
street, did not see the phone. I then asked several homeless people if they had the phone. One homeless man admitted to me that he had the phone, returned the phone to me in exchange for the following: $425 in cash, 3 chicken tacos.
Bitch, what are you laughing about? You
2
should be
bags of chips,
embarrassed.
4 apples, 2 apples, 4 bottles of water.
And so do you recall where you found the iPhone that day?
Yes, I did.
Objection asked and answered.
All right, I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Mr. Jenkins, moving to Coachella, Mr. Rottenborn asked you about Whitney Heard. Do you know who that is?
Yes, I do.
Do you know the difference between Whitney Heard and Amber Heard?
Yes, I do.
And who was sick that
One is
day?
the boss's wife, one is the boss's sister-in-law.
Who was sick that day at Coachella?
Amber was sick.
Thank you. Nothing further.
All right, is this witness subject to recall?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Jenkins, you're free from testimony, and therefore you're free to do whatever you need to do, or you can watch the proceedings. It's up to you. But you're done for today, though. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you to the court.
All right, have a good day.
You also.
Why would you have him read a statement as a
All right, I
partial
think it's close enough to 5:30 that I think we've had enough.
when you know on
Okay.
redirect they're going to make
Ladies
you
and
look
gentlemen, at this time,
like you
we're gonna go
manipulated
ahead
them.
and be done with the testimony for this week. Although, since I won't see you till Monday, I want to give you the long jury instruction that I give you every Thursday evening, just so we all remember our responsibilities. Okay. So at this time, remember that you are not to read anything about this case. You are not to watch anything about this case. You are not to listen to anything about this case. This applies to television, newspapers, magazines, the internet, and any online sites. Further, you are not to read, watch, or listen to anything about this case on any social networking sites such as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, blogs, or similar sites. In addition, you must not communicate with anyone about the case, whether in person, over the phone, by email, text, or instant messaging, or by any other electronic or non-electronic means. This includes your friends, family, coworkers, acquaintances, and strangers. I also instruct you that you cannot do any research or make inquiries about this case, whether online or by any other means. For example, you cannot look information up on the internet that is related to this case or related to the persons involved in this case, nor may you consult dictionaries or other reference materials. What you learn about this case is limited to what you learn in the 4 walls
This
of this
mega
courtroom
pint,
when
though.
proceedings are underway. You also may not communicate about this case or the persons involved in this case with your fellow jurors, okay? Hope you have a good weekend. It's supposed to be great weather on Saturday. Go outside, get some fresh air, okay? And just enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you back Monday at 10, okay? Thank you so much.
I did a recap video on YouTube with everything you need to know from all the other witnesses from week 1. And it'll get you caught up on like pretty much everything you need to know.
All right. And as always, Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard, please do not do any posting on social media and do not talk to the press. I appreciate it, and have a good weekend. For the attorneys, tomorrow, What time? How many? Did we do our homework
Definitely
this week?
watch
Yes.
Isaacs though.
We did.
Isaacs is something you
Work
want to
in
watch.
progress. Okay, so are we still doing 19 tomorrow?
But yeah, watch Isaac's testimony.
20. You added one for me. That's lovely.
Oh,
Okay,
shit.
great. So we'll do 20 tomorrow. So I would suggest 8 o'clock. Can everybody be here at 8? Sound good? Okay, we'll be here at 8 a.m. and we'll just do them until we're done. So bring a lot of meals, okay? All right, we'll see you tomorrow then. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Oh my God. Well, we can still have a meeting tomorrow if y'all want to. Okay, how do y'all want to hash this out? That's lovely. She was not down. I don't know if he turned over the thumb drives yet. I didn't hear that. Okay, so I'm not used to them not doing court on Fridays. But I mean, I know they do that in some like really long federal cases. But not one that I've witnessed. But basically on Fridays, they meet to go over all of the things that they're fucking around with during trial, like what's being admitted and like the exhibits. They're just going over like paperwork essentially to make there be less objections and whatnot. But you know, here we are. Yeah, she was fucking pissed. She was pissed. Pissed. And she's like, let me see myself out. Me and my bad attitude, so I can get booed in the parking lot on the way back to my car. I mean, she could not get out fast enough. But again, she's trying to not get booed. I don't know if y'all have seen those clips, but they hound her ass when she leaves. It's pretty epic. There was a guy dressed in a full pirate suit, like, you know, my little costume I borrowed from my dad. And he yells objection and hearsay at them as they walk to their car. It's epic. What else do we need to discuss? Any questions? Did I cover perjury? Like, do we understand perjury? That last guy was hilarious. The last several were hilarious. They are very, like, vocal and had really good facial expressions. That was, that last guy was hysterical. I don't know why Amber Heard's attorney would have him read one sentence saying that it pinged underneath the balcony, knowing good and damn well that the rest of the sentence, like that's too close together and questioning, and now they look manipulative. Like that was stupid. That was fucking stupid. Oh, what do I need to explain? I see this question down here, but I missed it. I hear they're lining up at 2 a.m. outside. I mean, I know I go super early to Duggar, but it's not 2 a.m. Okay, perjury. Okay, so perjury is the offense of like willingly telling an untruth or a lie in court after having been sworn in or taken an oath. So, like, you're willingly making a false statement under oath to solemnly tell the truth under penalty of perjury. So, but that's why you hear, like, I don't recall, because you're not giving them a chance to say you're lying when you say, I don't recall. Like you're not going to be able to pull up. Like if someone says, I don't recall, you're not going to be able to say they perjured themselves because they said, I do not recall. I'm trying to think about the best way to explain this. Like there's chances to refresh someone's memory and you can use something to perjure someone. But like if someone says, I don't recall, you can't then pull something out and use it to perjure them because they said, I don't recall. Now, if she says, I never said I went to Coachella, and they say, oh, well, here you are on video saying, hey, I just got to Coachella, that would be perjury. But if she says, I don't recall what year I went to Coachella, it's like, well, let me refresh your memory. Like, you can't perjure someone unless that's why you hear, I don't recall. I don't know. Like, it's a safety guard. Does that make sense? There's so many, I'm trying to make it like I hate when they do that. I'm trying to make it like the easiest explanation possible. Yeah, this was epic. I can't believe they tried this shit. Exactly. You like, I don't recall, I don't know. That's your safety guard, that's your safety net. So that you don't perjure yourself. But she has not perjured herself yet because she's not gotten up there. Yeah, correct. You cannot impeach a bad memory. I don't recall, I don't know. That's not lying. I mean, you can refresh someone's memory, but that's not catching them that's not them perjuring themselves. Anything else? And then we will head over, give me a quick break to like stretch my back, and then we can hash it out on TikTok. Have a discussion on TikTok, and then we can do a check-in tomorrow if you guys want to. We can have a Friday fun day. Fuckery Friday. We can have a Fuckery Friday if anybody wants to get on here tomorrow at some point and do a vibe check. Amber is expected to testify. She is. I don't know when, but she's expected to do that. Okay, so we want a Friday sesh. We can get on tomorrow and talk about this case, the Murdaugh case. We can have a West Memphis 3 Intro 101 class. TikTok, let's see. I mean, I'll probably just take I don't know. Should I wait until 6 to do TikTok? Or should I do TikTok at 5:15? Oh, that was stupid. Yeah, no, we can do it on here or TikTok or both or whatever. True Crime Friday refresh. We'll need one. Yeah, we can take 30 and then reconvene on TikTok. And then if you guys want, we can get on here tomorrow and TikTok, whatever. I mean, obviously, it's easier for me to see what you're saying on here. But there's more people that join us on TikTok, which, they should just come here. That's their loss. But bye, Tiffany. But yeah, so we can do TikTok here in a little bit. And then tomorrow we can try to get on here either during the day or tomorrow after 5. Or we can do late night. I'm down for whatever. Y'all can think it over and let me know on TikTok. Or if you are a media member, like I said, there's a private discussion group on there. So if you go to, let's go over this one more time. let's go over this one more time before y'all get off. Let's see. So right here. So if you're on here, I'll change podcast member to media member for y'all. You hit up the group discussion. You can come here, you can put in a picture or a comment, whatever, and have your own comment section on here privately. So there's that option too. I guess I can. So there's that. All right. So we'll get off here. We'll reconvene on TikTok, and we can do a live session on here tomorrow, or we can do whatever. Y'all decide, think it over, let me know. As always, it was fun, and we will reconvene for sure, no doubt, for sure. I mean, I'm gonna get on TikTok here, but we'll reconvene live watch Monday morning at 10 a.m.